do every week, but such is life. So just bear with me a moment. It's coming. So's Christmas. So here we go. That's got it. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome wherever you are in the world. This is Brooks's Bass Corner, live chat number 37. We've done 37 of these. If you've watched all of them, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a long string of live chats, but here we are, Tuesday evening in London town in the UK, 8 o'clock here, wherever you are in the world. Obviously, you'll have a different time based on where you are time zone wise. So if you're in New York or on the east side of US, it will be 3 p.m. in the afternoon. If you're in LA, San Francisco, California on the west side, it'll be around midday, I guess. So wherever you are, I hope you're all fine and well. So here we are, live chat number 37. If you've not attended one of these live chats before, welcome. You're more than welcome. The way this works is it's a two-way thing. So I'm going to do a bit of chat, and then you fabulous people in YouTube land can use the live chat window to put in questions, comments, anything about the channel. You want to talk about bass guitars, bass amplifiers, bass speakers, bass effects, bass accessories, great bass players, bands that had great bass players in them, great bass albums with great bass lines on, anything to do with bass guitars that you'd like to talk about, put it in the live chat window, and as soon as I see it pop up, I'll respond to it. If you're on the mobile app, the live chat window is below this video window. If you're on the desktop version, it's that way. You see a big window. You put your comment in the comments box in the section, hit return or hit the arrow, and it'll send, and then I'll see it pop up here on the window. So I can see a couple of people have responded already. Good evening, Visog. Good to see you. I've got new glasses on this week. These are bifocal, varifocal, one or the other. So I've got the lens is split into two sections. So if you keep seeing me tilting my head a weird way, it's because I've got a central sort of part of my vision, and then it's a bit sort of spongy around the outside. So I've got to find that perfect clean slot. So Visog and Ibi, you got there. Yes, Ibanez, I'll come to this shortly. Dylan Forrester, hi. South Carolina SC, I should know this. Stacy, good evening from North Carolina. You're very welcome, all three of you. Good to see you. I can see there's a few more people attending, so I can see the numbers. So thank you, everyone that's watching. Yes, as spotted by Visog, our friend. Yeah, got an Ibanez here. This is an SR300 EB, part of the Sound Gear range. It's kind of loiters around the cheaper end of their range. But I did a review of one of these in Bass Guitar Magazine, of course, a while ago now, probably about 15, 16 years ago. I've always been very impressed with the Ibanez gear. And this bass, although it resides at the cheaper end of their offerings, is a really great bass for the money. Really delivers 3-band EQ, volume, pickup pan, active passive switch, although I think it does something else because it's 3-way, so it might be something to do with the mids. Anyway, I need to look up the manual for that. So why have I got this? I've just recently purchased it secondhand off eBay, and I want to do some videos with it. It needs a little bit of setting up, not a lot. So it's going to be a workshop video on how to set one of these up, and we'll get it playing really nicely, put a new set of strings on, give it a good clean, and yeah, we'll have it playing well in no time. Not sure what gauge strings I'm going to put on it yet. I've still to decide, but these are quite sort of twangy. I believe he said tangy. No, it's not tangy. Twangy beasts. So I might put some heavier gauge strings on, but I might put some nickels on just to soften the abrasiveness. But A really great bass. The previous owner really looked after it. There's no buckle rash or anything on there. And yeah, so I picked that up last week. There's actually something else potentially incoming this week. I won't tell you what it is yet, just in case the deal falls through. But if I do get it this weekend, you'll see it on the next live chat. And that I'm actually buying for videos for the channel, but also I want to use it in a couple of projects that I'm working with. A couple of things that are coming up. And this bass really kind of sort of hits the bullseye. So hopefully it will appear at the weekend. I'll show you it on the next live chat. So yeah, Ibanez SR300EB. It's part of the Sound Gear range. So these have been out in the market, or at least the Sound Gear range, since about 86, 87, 1987. I remember when they first appeared, it kind of coincided with me taking up bass guitar. And I always liked the body shape, really liked the thin body depth. Sculpting's great. Always found them very comfortable. Can feel a little lightweight. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes not. But on these, it's pretty good. Some players don't like them. They say they feel a little insubstantial. I can go with it if it means I haven't got back and shoulder pain. But it plays great, plays really well. Just needs a little tweak on the truss rod, a little bit of a clean up, give the fretboard, fingerboard some love. So we'll be lubricating that. I'll check all the controls, battery, check the neck pocket, and we'll be good to go. So yeah, there'll be some videos on this bass hitting the channel very soon, hopefully. So yeah, so there we go. Let me just put this in the rack and I'll come back to you. So yeah, if you're new to the channel, new to live chats, this is how it works. So basically we're here for an hour or two, maybe more. Sometimes it's more, sometimes not. It's a two-way conversation. So if you've got any questions about bass guitars, amplifiers, speakers, bass effects, bass accessories, great bass players, bands with great bass players, albums that had great bass lines all over them, this is the place to do it. If you enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button below. Also hit the notification bell so you get notifications when I post up new videos and when I post on the community tab. Keep getting people saying, I don't get what the community tab is. Okay, it's YouTube's version of social media. So every day, every other day, I'll post something up on there. It's a bit more direct than Facebook and Instagram. And if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified when I put those posts up. So anything that's going to happen here on the channel, new videos coming out, things that I might be working on, ideas I've got for new video content, I'll post it up on there. Sometimes I ask for your opinions. What do you think? And then I'll take on board what you say and not do it. No, I lie. If it's a good idea and I think it's got legs and it can work here on the channel, then I'll go ahead and try and produce it. So I'm trying to think, what have we done since last week? So I've been out, I've done a couple of gigs since last week. Did a Queen tribute at the weekend. Then this weekend, I'm out with another Queen tribute that featured some of the people that were on Saturday's show. Last Saturday was in Buckingham, which is a private event. This week is, it's kind of a semi-private event, but it's actually for a hotel chain, and I think it's like an evening entertainment and they provide the dinner and what have you, and that's over in Hereford, so West Country way for me this weekend. But before that, I've got a gig with Uncle Funk's Disco Inferno on Friday. That's a private booking, and that's in Ware, which is kind of Hertfordshire, Cambridgeshire way. I kind of sits between the two counties. So I'll be there on Friday, Hereford Saturday, and yeah, gigs are starting to happen now. Now we're sort of about to get into springtime. The diary starts to get a bit busy, so it's all good. It's all good. Coming up here on the channel, I know I promised lots of things last week. I was actually thinking about an hour ago while I was having my dinner, I was thinking, what happened to Wednesday, Thursday and Friday last week? And I actually can't remember what happened. What I do know is since I last spoke to you on last week's live chat, I had to deal with a load of sort of house and life issues. So we've got some problems with our garage, kind of floors disintegrating, got a problem in there. So I had to pull all my equipment, my backline, my PA equipment, lighting, everything out of the garage and try and sort out what was going on with the floor. That took a whole day. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week just seemed to have evaporated. But I know I was doing graphics work, and I know I was doing keyword exploration on base topics. So I was doing something, but the days just seemed to disappear. So this week, what we got coming up, I have here all my notes on merchandise. I know I keep promising this. It's happening. I was actually busy doing it yesterday, and then something else cropped up that I had to deal with. So the merchandise really should be up and live tomorrow. If I do that tomorrow morning, that'd be cool. And then the next installment of the bass string experiment, which is gig number 14, that will be up, well, hopefully tomorrow, if not Thursday. And then there's a whole new load of YouTube shorts going up as well. So if you already subscribe to the channel, you'll get notifications of all that content going up. If you don't already subscribe to the channel, feel free to do so. You don't have to, but you'll get notified when there is new content going up on the channel, or when I post on the community tab. If you don't already follow the channel on social media, you can. Again, you don't have to, it's entirely up to you. So you'll find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. You'll also find it on Be Real, Reddit, Quora. So I think what else? I think that's it for the moment. So I'm across all of those social media channels. Now, you can support the channel. This is the big sell part. I hate having to do this, but unfortunately we kind of have to because it's YouTube. So the channel is monetized. If you enjoy the content, if you enjoy this video, if you enjoy any videos on the channel, feel free, in the live chat window, you'll see there's an emoji icon. So feel free to hit the emoji icon and add emojis to the conversation as you so wish, which is all cool. There's also a dollar symbol there, which allows you to make a financial contribution to the channel. You don't have to, but if you wish to do so, usually we get some people on here looking for advice, help with their gear. They might have some problems with their gear. We have a regular attendee called Texas Iguana. We help him out with his pedal board, get his pedals in the right order, give him advice regarding new pedals he might want to consider. And the guy's fabulous. He contributes to the channel financially, which is very much appreciated. He may appear this evening, or he may not. But if you wish to contribute to the channel, you can do that via that facility in the live chat window, which is called Super Chat. A similar feature exists underneath every video here on the channel because it's monetized. You'll see the icons below the video. So you've got thumbs up, thumbs down, the share arrow, a save button, so you can save videos for watching later. Then there's also a love heart with a dollar symbol in, which works in the same way as the super chat here on the live chats. That's called super thanks. So if you enjoy a particular video, or you enjoy a creator, a particular creator and the work they're putting up on their channel, you can hit that super thanks button and you can donate financially to the channel. I get people occasionally asking, well, what does that money go on? So it goes towards studio time. It goes towards buying the equipment. So lighting, boom stands, microphones, leads, mixers, software. It goes towards buying pedals for reviews and demos. It goes towards buying, for example, that Ibanez bass. I personally wouldn't have gone and bought that as part of the collection, but I suddenly thought, do you know what? I need to do some videos on some of the cheaper end gear. And trying to get gear out of companies at the moment for small YouTube channels is really tricky. So rather than spend immense amounts of time trying to get gear out of companies and get it here and then get it filmed and sent back in a rush, and it's much easier for me just to buy the gear, do the videos, and then sell the bass on. So that's kind of the way I'm approaching that side of things at the moment, because it seems to be a little more flexible. Apologies for the finger. I'm just seeing messages pop up, so I'll try and catch up with those. David Gill, good evening. Hope you're well, sir. From South Carolina. Sorry, teeth aren't in yet. I'll get that glue sorted. I can see there's quite a few messages there. Dylan Forrester, that was my first bass. Love them. Yes, the Ibanez. They're a really great bass for the money. They've got a lot of bang for your bucks, I guess you would say. David Gill, really like the rounded body and colour. Yes, candy apple red. I think there might be a dose of metallic in there, or at least some sort of sparkle. Yeah, there is. It's a metallic sparkle. It's subtle, but yeah, looks very, very nice, very fetching. Yeah. But I just thought, we have so many expensive bass demos and reviews here on the channel, and those will continue, of course. But I need to also factor in sort of the mid-range and the cheaper end of things. And unsurprisingly, sometimes the cheaper basses get better viewing figures than the expensive ones. I guess because the cheaper ones are within more people's reach. And if you're starting out or a beginner, you may not know what you're looking for or what the features are or how the basses sound. So they're more inclined to click on those cheaper range instruments, and long may they do so. Here we go. Patrick Sweeney. Evening, Mike. Good to be back from Oz. Catch up with you all. Hi, Patrick. Hope you're well. Hope things are good with the family. Fanfrit Steve from East London. Good evening, sir. Good to see you all. Welcome. So this is live chat number 37. That we are racking them up at a healthy rate here. So if you've got any questions about bass guitars, bass amplifiers, bass speakers, bass effects, bass accessories, great bass players, bass albums, anything here on the channel, if you've watched any of the videos already or previously and you'd like to discuss anything that you may have seen, feel free. That's what I'm here for. If you've got any problems with any of your gear, any of your equipment, or maybe you're a beginner looking to get out there and gig, you don't know what to buy, thinking of a new bass or some pedals or a new amplifier. If it helps, I was a reviewer and a writer for Bass Guitar Magazine and Bass Player Magazine for 18 years. I think my reviews totaled somewhere in the region of about 550 to 600 reviews. So I've played a lot of gear, got quite a few here in my own collection. So if I can advise you or offer any advice or help, if you're thinking of buying something new, let me know. If I can't help, chances are one of the fine people here on tonight's live chat might well have some experience I don't have, and they might be able to help you, point you in the right direction. I'm just checking that because that's YouTube posting a message. Great, thank you. You don't need to do that, YouTube. We know how to run a live chat, thank you. After 37. Visog, bass albums, listen to Kingy's influences at the weekend, love the instrumental. Well, isn't that an album? So for anyone in the States who, I'm sure most bass players have heard of Mark King, whether you're in the States or not. Mark did a solo album in 1984, which was basically, he did that for the record company so they would give him the down payment so he could buy a house. And that album was released in 1984. Yeah, late 84. If you haven't heard it, check it out. If you're inclined to buy CDs or vinyl, there's certainly copies of those out there. Alternatively, you'll find it on Spotify, you'll find it on YouTube. Now, if you really love that album, obviously for a lot of us Level 42 fans and Mark King fans, for years, he would only play snippets of it in his solo. Like he'd take parts from a track on that album, which is basically the whole of the first side, if you're talking vinyl or cassette, called The Essential. So he would embellish his solos with little tasters from that song, that track. Now, if you weren't already aware, back in 2012, he did a run of shows at Ronnie Scott's here in London. That set at which he played the entire Influences album is available on CD. I think it may also be on Spotify, but if you go to level42.com, you can buy the album. I think it's called Mark King and Friends at Ronnie Scott's. And basically he plays the entire Influences album live with I don't think Mike Lindup's on it. I think Gary Husband is on it, with Pete Ray Biggin, Nathan, some of the horns. I think there was also a show with what's the drummer? Billy Cobham. But that might have been a different show, and that's not on the CD. I can't remember. I can tell you very quickly if I fire up my my music player, because it's in my library. 2 seconds. Let's get to that. I can tell you exactly rather than me talking and waffling. Mark King. Mark King and Friends. Here we go. Live in Soho, London, 2012. So track listing. It's 14 tracks. So you've got the whole of the Essential, which is broken down in 6 tracks. You then got Clocks Go Forward, Outstanding, which comes from the Trash album. There is a Dog. Throwing Sevens comes from the Trash album. Headhunt was a separate track that hadn't been on anything else. You got Bossa Nostra, which is from Trash. The 80s, Mark's play on words. And then you got Just Like That, which is the opening track on Trash. So if you weren't already aware, but you do enjoy Mark's album influences, you can hear all of that live on that CD. Like I say, I think it might be on Spotify. I don't know. I've got my own copy of it, so I'm not a huge Spotify user. So if you're a big fan of Mark King, fancy a bit of that going on, you can hear him do that with one of his King basses on that album. So yeah, there we go. I hope that's of use to any Level 42 fans, Mark King fans out there. And it's a great album. It's really good. I wish I'd gone at the time. I think when he did it, I was away on a trip, or the tickets were announced when I was away on a trip. And by the time I came back from the trip, tickets had sold out. But there we go. You can't have everything. I would have loved to have gone. It would have been a great night. I know quite a few Level 42 fans who went, and they said it was absolutely superb. But again, because it's Ronnie Scott, you're not really allowed to take photos. You're not allowed to record videos or anything. So there's very little footage or photos from it, as far as I'm aware. I don't think I've seen too much stuff on that, but there we are. There we are. So here we are, live chat number 37 here on Brooks's Bass Corner. I'm Mike Brooks. We're talking bass guitars, bass amps, bass effects, bass accessories, great bass players. You want to talk about great bass albums? Well, Mark King's influences is one of those. That will feature at some point in my Essential Bass Albums series. There's 23 episodes of that already here on the channel. If you've not seen them or not delved into the videos I have here on the channel, if you go to the playlist section, every video on this channel is inserted into one of the many playlists that there are. There's actually a playlist just for that series. So it's called Essential Bass Albums. I'm trying to think what's in there. There is Level 42, the first album. There's Night at the Opera by Queen. There's I Am by Earth, Wind and Fire. There's the first Jamiroquai album, Emergency on Planet Earth. David Lee Roth, Eatman's Smile. There's Mr. Big, Lean Into It. There's a James Brown live album. Paul Simon, Graceland. Nirvana, of course, Nevermind. The Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's is in there. Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie. There's 23 albums, all of which I consider them to be essential listening for any bass player. If you haven't checked it out already, feel free. You don't have to, but though you might find those videos interesting. They might just you may find an album that you've maybe not listened to and always thought, well, I should listen to that. Basically, I'm talking about generally each track on the album. There's a couple where there were so many tracks, I couldn't discuss all of them or we'd have been there all day. Talk about the bass player, talk about the gear they used to record that album, how the album performed in terms of sales and chart position, and any of the background story that related to that particular album while it was being recorded, before it was recorded, things that might have happened after it was recorded. But that series of videos followed on from a series of columns I wrote for Bass Guitar magazine between 2016 and 2018. And when we were in lockdown and I just started the channel, I thought, do you know what, that would make a great series. So I rewrote some of the scripts and recorded those videos. If you want to check them out, feel free. Everything I refer to in this live chat that's already here on the channel, you'll find links in the description box below. I try to do it the day after the live chat once this uploads and streams directly onto the channel. You'll find quite a few of the live chats I haven't caught up with yet. So I need to do that. It's a job on my list. But it's very time consuming sitting back through a live chat, especially if we do a 2 or 3 hour one, trying to put all the links in. So I'm trying to catch up. We'll get there. Don't worry. But generally what happens is anything I refer to that's already here on the channel, rather you have to go back into the channel and try and find what I'm talking about. I'll put a link in the description box below and then you can just click on it and it'll take you through to what I'm talking about. So there we go. There we go. So Visog, yes. Listen to Kingy's influences at the weekend. Love the instrumental. Do you love the sound of those status basses? So that would have been a Status 2000 and a Series 2. And the JDs, of course, were on there. And yeah, amazing. He turned that album round really, really quickly. But it was basically he had to come up with the money as a down payment on the deposit for a house. So he went to Polydor and said, I'll do your solo album, but I need this money up front to be able to do it. So they said, all right. And after some time, he still hadn't produced the album. So he realized he needed to pull his finger out and record that album. It came out pretty well. Those of us who are fans thought it came out pretty well. If you're not a Mark King fan or a Level 42 fan, you might listen to it and go, what the hell's all this? But for those of us in the know, highly rated. I think he played drums on it too. He did. I think there's one track that's got the guy from Aswad on drums as well. But yeah. Patrick, yeah, Influences is a genius album. Yes, it is. Never mind playing the songs, but try singing the vocals to any Level 42 song while playing the bass line. Quite. The man's a monster. Told him that to his face. Yeah. And actually, I can't remember, in the 2 interviews that are here on the channel, there was one other interview I did with Mark, which preceded both of those, which was a phone interview, which I didn't record, unfortunately. I hadn't quite got my technology all sorted back when that happened in 2014, and we spoke quite a bit about that album. But yeah, I've asked him many times, just how do you do it? How do you? He said, well, you just do it. But because he was already a drummer, he's already got that thing going on. And I think as a kid, he probably had an acoustic guitar or something at home, because his knowledge of harmony, melody, chords is pretty good. And you can hear it, especially on any of his solo stuff. You'll hear his progressions and how he phrases certain chords and progressions, and you hear similarity, things that you've heard him do before. So his ear is tuned to certain form, if you like, certain chordal voicings and that kind of thing. You know, if you followed his career for best part of 40 years, those things sort of pop up commonly throughout the career. But yeah, his thing to me when I asked him about all this was, he said, you just got to practice. It's practice, practice, practice. He said, you got to remember when we were doing, well, he didn't pick up a bass till he was 20, 21, as a viable means of being musical. But I guess he was just able to bolt it all together and make it work. But back in those days, I mean, Level 42 would have been rehearsing a lot. And if you listen to any of the early live recordings, I mean, they're all fairly, I want to say a word beginning with S and ending in T, but hot. Yeah. They clearly knew what they were doing. Visog, he's ace on acoustic. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's no slouch. but they were rehearsing and practicing so much. And I know when he stayed in, I think he was in Tooting with Mike Lindup, they shared a place, and they were playing literally all the time. And I guess if you're doing that and you got your mind focused, this is definitely what I want to do, but I've got to be good at it. You're going to practice it pretty intensely, you know. You've got to make it work. Can't really go on stage and not be able to do it. So but he's always been that driven personality, isn't he? So he makes it work and has made it work. Very good. But yeah, so here we are, 30 minutes in, live chat number 37 here on Brooks's Bass Corner. I'm Mike Brooks. You're very welcome wherever you are in the world. I wish you good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Who knows where you are? So yes, coming up on the channel this week, so we will get, or I will get the merchandise sorted tomorrow. I've been working on it the past couple of days, and so I should be able to make the merchandise store for the YouTube videos live tomorrow. Then I need to weigh up whether I want to create a website for that I can also link through to the shop, which will also then allow me to sell merchandise. Some of you may have realized I put a poll up about 2 or 3 weeks ago asking about bass related merchandise. Now I can't do any of that through the store that's going to be connected to the YouTube channel because they don't do anything. So they don't do plectrums, they don't do cleaning cloths, they don't do bass related stuff. It's all kind of clothing and accessories and phone cases and drinks bottles and all that thing. They don't do all the picks and stuff. I need to do that myself, but I need unless I sell all that stuff through social media, which then gets really messy, I need to possibly set up a website to do that. So I'll think about it, I'll consider it, but what I don't want to do is buy a load of bass related merchandise, get it all printed up, and then I've got loads of stock here sat not moving. So just bear with me on that front. I will try my best to work around that, but at the moment everything's focused on new content going up, so just bear with me on that front. Yeah, so the merchandise stuff will be going up. There'll be the next episode of the bass string experiment. That'll be gig number 14. And then, as I've mentioned on the past 2 live chats, the video after that won't be gig number 15, followed by gig number 16, by 17. We're going to condense. So all those gigs were done before Christmas. So as I look back through all the footage from 15 to 19, the strings didn't change. I don't want to waste your time producing videos where basically I say the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to condense the 5 gigs, which are gig 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19 down into one video. So all the gig footage, all the chat will be summarized, because basically those strings didn't really change. Didn't matter what I did on the gigs. The way they were performing tonally, how they felt, how they were responding was the same on each gig. So I'll produce one video that summarizes all of that stuff. And it might well be that gigs 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 will be into one video. 25, 26, 27, 28 and 29 might well fit into one video. Gig 30 was not last weekend, the weekend before. And this week, Uncle Funk's Disco Inferno show on Friday, that'll be gig number 31. Yeah, on my list. So again, rather than me just keep reiterating the same stuff, I'll condense them down into one sort of solid video of content. And hopefully you guys will find that interesting and entertaining. There's loads of good gig footage. I recorded quite a bit from various gigs during November and December. So I hope you enjoy seeing that when I put it up. And then for anyone who enjoyed the bass collection video, Graham. Hi, evening. Good evening, sir. Good to see you. Hope you and family had a better week. Yes, we did. Graham's referring there to the fact that our dog passed away 2 weeks ago. So we've been dealing with that. And that obviously led to a halt in video content here on the channel. But thank you for asking, Graham. Yeah, we're kind of soldiering through it really at the moment. It's the house is very empty without him. And I keep looking at the clock at 3 o'clock in the afternoon thinking, right, well, I better get him out for a walk then. And then you realise he's not here. Yeah, but yeah, we're soldiering on. It takes time. We went through this 4 years ago when our last dog passed away. You can't rush it. It's a grieving process. So you just got to sort of soldier through each day. And then at some point, another one will come into our life. So, yeah. So yes, I was saying, so anyone that has watched the bass collection video, I now call that a feature video because it doesn't really, it's not a review video or a demo video or an interview or anything like that. It's a feature. So the next feature video will be how to buy Joe Goose bass. Evening, sir. Good evening. Hope you're well. Thank you for attending. The next feature video will be how to buy a bass in 2023. So I'm very aware that I've been playing for 36 years in October this year. And the way I bought my first bass is now completely alien to how I would buy a bass now. And for anyone starting out on bass, buying their first instrument, it's a very, I would say, a daunting prospect because there aren't as many shops as there used to be. You can't just walk into a guitar shop or a music shop or a bass shop and try multiple examples of the same bass. It just doesn't happen. Most stores now are running on such tight margins and profits that they will only have one, maybe two examples of a particular bass. So trying to find, if you've got your mind or your heart set on a particular bass you want to buy, it's very hard to sit there and, you know, play with 3 or 4 examples of the same thing. You've literally got one to choose from. Now, if that one isn't set up great, it doesn't play great, could completely put you off that model, even though it's probably perfect for what you want. So it occurred to me after I'd done the bass collection video, I thought, well, I do get messages on social media and actually through the community tab as well. People going, I'm starting out. How do I buy a bass? Or where do I go to buy a bass? Or what should I look for? And it's like, well, that's a video in itself, and probably quite a long video. So the bass collection video obviously was a 55 minutes, 56 minutes. I could easily do one the same length in helping people buy a bass guitar. So, and having reviewed quite a few and got plenty in the collection and played for 36 years, I probably help people, give some advice in what I would look for or how would I approach buying a bass. So I took the camera out and we visited some bass stores and some music stores, and I've been working on the content for this video, and I would say it's probably maybe 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away. Got to start editing it down and seeing if I need to include some other footage and what have you. But it should be a really good video. I'll try and make it as entertaining for those of us who kind of know what we're doing when we buy basses. But for people starting out, there's got to be a certain element of not so much education, it's advice more than anything. So these are the things you kind of want to be looking at or looking for. You might want to avoid any instrument that shows these sort of characteristics, or if the neck's bowing or back bowing, or if the strings are way up, or if the pickups are all over the shop, or if the bridge saddle, right, so there's a load of other videos that I can link into it. Some I've already produced, some I haven't. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I would say probably about 2.5 weeks till that video's ready. But hopefully it'll be really good. Saw a load of messages pop up. Patrick Sweeney, I'm in the market for a 5-string. Are you now? Okay, I normally play a 4 for gigs, as do I, but I fancy getting the grips with one properly. Do you or any of the other good folks have any recommendations? Patrick, as with any bass purchase, what's your budget? Now, if you want this to be a working instrument, then clearly you and I are of a similar vintage and level. So you're not going to want to buy something that's really cheap, and you're going to have certain tones and sounds you're going to want to get out of it. However, if you don't want to spend a fortune and you want a bass to see if you like it, or whether you know, as an entry level instrument, because not every 4-string player takes to playing a 5. I can honestly say, and I'm annoyed because I wrote the reviews for these basses and they didn't get published, and I wish they had, because Harley Benton would have loved them. But also it would have, there's going to be a couple of review videos for these 2 basses on the channel soon. I keep saying I'm going to do it. There's always something else crops up before I get around to doing it. So if you check the soundbite demos, Patrick, there's 2 basses by Harley Benton called Marquis basses. There's a 4 and a 5. At the time I filmed them, they were £250 from Thomann, each of them. They were the same price. They since dropped down to like £180. I don't know what they currently are. In my view, when I reviewed those basses, so at the end of 2021, in my view, my opinion, anyone can disagree with it, it's fine. I personally thought these were the 2 best basses I have ever played in my career for the money. I've never come across basses that were that cheap, that played that well, sounded that good, looked good, finished really well. The frets were good, the necks were great, the finishing on the body was fab, the electronics were great. But for 170, 180, 200 pounds, if you aren't convinced that you're going to naturally take to being a 5-string player, to spend 200 pounds on a bass, if you don't like it, you're not losing a load of money, and you'll probably be able to sell it for what you bought it for. If you want to go the full pro route, well, again, what's your budget? Because you can have anything if you've got the money for it. So let me know on the live chat how much, what sort of budget you're looking at, Patrick. What do you want to throw at this? If it helps you, like I'm saying, go for the cheaper end of things. I'm about to start a journey of trying to learn fretless bass. I have a Kubicki here in the rack, the pink one, but I don't want to spend a number of months as a beginning fretless player chewing up that ebony board, because Kubickis are now worth a fair bit of money. So I've plumped for a jive bass from the Bass Center, which they had in stock. It's now been defretted. Apparently it's coming my way in the next couple of days. I'm going to be filming all of this. This will be my fretless journey. So rather than spend a lot of money on a really great fretless, because I've already got one in the Kubicki, I've decided to go for something a little cheaper, jazz oriented, of course, 2 single coils. If I don't enjoy it, or I hate playing fretless, it hasn't cost me, I haven't invested loads of money into it. But if I suddenly find, actually, I really like this and I can make this part of my live kit, then I'm going to feel happier if I'm then spending more money on a better fretless. But spending a little and seeing if you adapt to it is never a bad thing, because then you haven't laid down a load of money that you're not going to see back. So I can wholeheartedly recommend those, the Harley Benton Marquis basses. They do some others that are a bit more traditionally styled. The Marquis might look a bit rock, but there's one, I think it was flame maple or quilted maple. But have a look, have a listen. I haven't done the review videos. I will get round to them, but the demos are there. So if you want to have a listen to how they sound, the 5-string, I was like, whoa, this is really good bass for the money. See what you think, Pat. See what you think. Graham, glad to hear it, mate. Yeah. Thank you regarding the dog. Q Dave Q, hi Mike. I have a couple of career centre questions, if that's okay. Of course, that's what we're here for, sir. You fire those questions away, and me and the gang will try and help as much as we can. Joe Goose, can you tell us about Mark King's flat? Did it have a studio? What area was it in? Mark's flat was in Tooting. I think near Thomann. And he and Mike Linda lived there. I think that was probably until Mark got married his first wife. So then obviously they would have got their own place. But yeah, Mark and Mike used to live, I guess they wouldn't have had a whole house. There might have been other people in there as well. So it might have been just a flat share. But I know Mark had recording equipment in there. And that's how they did a lot of their early demos. So you can imagine Mike doing his whole Rhodes thing, Mark having just got his JD. I mean, that would have been, imagine someone pressing play and record on a cassette deck and recording those. That would have been great. Q Dave Q. Players do covers gigs, weddings, tributes, take it seriously. Work at their playing, following opportunities, but have to have a day job. What made a difference in you being able to do it full time? I can give you a very potted history in how I've managed to do this. So I took up bass when I was 15. I was at school. As far as I was concerned, I wanted to be a musician, but no one in my family was musically orientated. I had no family members, aunts, uncles that were even remotely, none of them had careers in music. So I had no guidance on this. All I knew was that I wanted to be a musician. Originally, I wanted to be a singer. Then the family jewels dropped and the voice dropped, so that was a goner. Then thought I'd be a drummer, but as a 15, 16-year-old, didn't have a car, so how are you going to get your kit around? And then a note went up on the music room notice board at school, and it was one of the English teachers. He said, does anyone want bass lessons at lunchtimes on Wednesdays? And I said, yeah, me. And I was the only one that responded. So I basically had 3 lessons with the guy. And from that point on, he said, you've already got the drive to want to do this. I'm only going to be able to teach you so much. So I've given you the building blocks of knowing where the notes are on the fingerboard and the strings. And he said, you are so into music and playing, just go and do your thing. He said, I've given you like the very basic blocks. Just go do your thing, see where it takes you. And that was that. Didn't know what was going to happen once I finished school. Hadn't thought of doing A levels. Hadn't thought of doing university. Teachers at school said, you really need to do A levels. And my family were moving. So we moved down to the South Coast. I did A levels. Then went off to university, came back up to London, went to Kingston, did a degree in computers. So I had something to fall back on if the music didn't work out. People who I knew and had grown up with, there was an opening to be in a glam rock tribute band that came up. Basically, the opening to join that band came up just as my degree was finishing. And I literally finished my degree on the Thursday, and the following weekend I was doing my first gigs. I was out earning money, did that band for 3 years. Then I was in a very busy working function covers band for 17 years. Left that in 2015. Formed a new covers band, did that for 3 years. And then since 2018, I've been completely freelance. So I work with and for a number of bands, but I'm not in any band. So I'm not responsible for booking anything, organizing anything. I did years of that, and I can do it. I could set my own band up if I wanted to do it. But at the moment, I'm having too much fun doing the bands I'm playing with, and I quite like the freedom of turning up, playing, and going. I have no clients to argue with or try to please them. I just like turn up, playing, and going. So in that whole expanse of time, since 1987, I had a couple of periods where I did part-time jobs. So I did IT help desk work. I worked for the BBC for 3 months on an IT contract. And apart from that, everything has been gigging, playing, recording, writing for magazines, now the YouTube channel. I did a bit of agency fixing for a while, where I was booking covers bands into a London club circuit here in London. Basically, there was a company that had loads and loads of clubs and bars. They wanted live music and had no idea how to do it. My band was already whipping up a storm at one of their bars. They then started to expand it. So at one point we had 11 bars having bands. and I was the agent fixer. And that ran for 4 or 5 years until the company pulled the plug on live music, and that was that. But I earned a commission for all those gigs that I booked. So yeah, so my advice as a working musician, there will be times where gigs are light and you need to have either a part-time job or another income stream to make things work. But if you get really lucky, and like in my working covers band that we did for 17 years, the first 2 years were really patchy. And at one point I thought, I'm going to have to leave this band. We're just not gigging enough. It was literally a gig here, a gig there. Then we got in with an agent that many bands here in London and South East will know. And he had, I think he had something like 120 pubs and venues that he put music into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. You can imagine the commission he was making. And he would basically fill all the gaps in our diary. So if we had 2 or 3 gigs a week, he could then fill it. So we had 6 or 7. And that made that band suddenly really, really busy. And out of those gigs, although they weren't particularly well paid, you get loads of bookings for functions, weddings. That's where you start to make serious money. And if you get a good reputation and your band works really hard and you're focused on doing a good job doing covers, a lot of musicians don't sneer at doing covers. That's fine. You can sneer at it all you like, but it's given me a good lifestyle for a number of years, paid the mortgage off. So it can be done, but it's just how much you want to plow into it, how hard you want to work at it. And you know, if you get into the mindset that, okay, I'm playing songs I don't particularly like, I don't enjoy playing Brown Eyed Girl, but you know, Mrs. Jones and her daughters getting married, they love it, so they're paying us ridiculous amounts of money. They can have any songs they want. I'm not very precious in that way. To me it's a job, a very enjoyable job. There are times when it's a real arseache, but most of the time it's a great way to see the world. You know, I've done a lot of gigs abroad and worked abroad. It's if you want to do that, but you see what's happened with social media. Like when I left my work, the really busy covers band, at that time you didn't go on Facebook to get gigs. That hadn't really kicked in. And I always thought if there was a way that you could have like a page or like a notice board, then if loads of musicians are available on any given day, you can put on there. And then all of a sudden Facebook becomes the de facto standard that if someone needs a musician or a band or something, it all goes up on there. But then it becomes a bun fight, as in who responds first and who's doing it cheapest. And if you're not one of those two, you're not going to get the gig. Having said that, I've been reasonably successful getting loads of work out of Facebook in that context, but it is always a bun fight, and you do have to spend a certain amount of time watching Facebook, which I tend not to do now because a lot of my time is spent doing the YouTube stuff. And my days of kind of bartering with band leaders to knock an extra 30 or 40 pounds off my fee, I'm putting it up, I'm not putting it down. So yeah, that's the way you kind of have to, or in my view, that's the way you have to approach it. So as long as you can get your head around, there are going to be quiet times, but if you can make your band and your bandmates focus that if we work really hard and work on making the best band we possibly can, you can be very busy. The difference between now and when I was doing all of that is here in London, the number of gigs is decimated. There just isn't the regular live circuit that there used to be. You're now kind of relying on functions, private bookings, corporate events, and a few pub and club gigs. It's not like it was. So I hope that helps. Let me see, how far did we get down there? Yeah, so Dave, I hope that helps somewhat. If you want to come back to me with anything that I've said there, feel free. Moment to moment. Good evening. Hi, I'm Joe. Oh, you'll just switch your YouTube account. Gotcha. Well done, Joe. Patrick Sweeney. Budget is up to 1,500. The HB sound amazing value. Most of my playing is groove based funk soul. Well, then, Patrick, how about trying one of the Harley Bentons? See how you get on with it, and then if you're quite happy and confident with how you're playing that, and that you're happy doing 5-string, then go and buy something a little more up to that budget. And if you sell the HB on, you haven't really lost anything. Second hand, maybe a Stingray, 5-string Stingray. There's always plenty of those. 5-string Jazzes, of course. Trying to think what else. Lakeland Skyline. I mean, I can pull basses out the rack if you want me to, Patrick. But Lakeland Skyline 5-string. Get one of those for like $750, $800. Loads of tonal options on those. You could probably, for £1,500, you can even look at the American one second hand, possibly. I mean, 1,500 kind of opens so many possibilities up. So I guess, do you want something lightweight? Do you want something a bit more bulky? What sort of tones are you after? What sort of features are you after? I mean, £1,500, Patrick, second hand. You can pretty much pick anything 5-string wise. I mean, there was a time you'd be able to get a second-hand Status Empathy for £1,100-1,200. I'm not sure you would now, but certainly £1,500 you'd be able to find something really, really tasty. But again, if you want to try one of those Harley Bentons and not spend your full budget, that'll give you a really good idea of whether you like it or not. Also, obviously with 5-string, string spacing. So you're looking for 18, 17, 15, it's not 15, 16, or you're going to stick at like a 19 mil string spacing. Come back to me, Patrick. Give me more info. Joe, I thought you interviewed him in his flat back at... that was a different flat. Yes, the Mark King interview in 2015 was at his flat now that's in London. Not the one back in the old days. I can't tell you where that was. That's a secret. We were sworn to not divulge where he was, but yeah. Yeah, that's the flat that he owns, but basically it's where Marley, his daughter, who was at university, I think she was at Goldsmiths, or I could be wrong. She stays there, and obviously he uses it as his London base whenever he's in London. When he needs to be up here rather than on the Isle of Wight. There's a way to get your choir voice back, but it's a bit painful. Don't know what that means. Fill me in. Dave, Steve Travers. Yes, indeed. Yes, a name from my past. Graham, had an interesting one this weekend. I play in a busy function band. Very good. About 150 gigs per year. Very good. Not many people can claim that at the moment. Doing normal cheesy mix bag of stuff and styles. Normally play active type of basses. With GB fans. Graham, that's... However, this weekend I used a couple of bog standard Fenders, Jazz and a P bass. Our sound engineer said my bass overall sound out front was so much more consistent. Maybe it was just easier for him to mix. Well, there would be that. Obviously, with active, you're getting more transients. That's the nature of active EQ. It's going to give you more volume and headroom and tonal clarity. So many sound engineers will, as soon as they see a Fender or a Jazz or a P-style bass, they suddenly go, oh, right, well, I know how to do that. Well, why don't you know how to do the other basses? If a bass is active, why don't you know how to do that? You're a sound man. Surely you should be able to mix any instrument anyone produces, surely. This has always mystified me. These producers who would insist that it has to be a Fender, it has to be a Precision, or it has to be a Jazz. That's just laziness. Why don't you go and do a course, a sound mixing course, and learn about these different basses and different guitars, and don't just go on the tried and trusted. Expand your skill base. Graham, just wondering if anyone else has experienced this. Yes, often. Very rare, though, that I have passive instruments. It's only for specific things. So, for example, when I'm doing a Queen tribute, I'm using Precisions all the way. with most other bands, I'm left to pick what I think works best for the band, for the songs, what have you. And generally, I'll always have active basses. Occasionally, I might take a passive one just for the fun of it. But you know, I kind of, as you grow through being a bass player and you try different basses and you play in different bands, you play different material, you learn what works for you and what doesn't. And for years, a P or a J were not part of something I wanted in my arsenal. I just didn't need it, had no calling for it. But then as time goes by, and as I said in the bass collection video, you know, I was doing a session. They said, can you bring a jazz bass or a jazz style bass? I took a T bass with me. You know, that's everything a jazz bass should be, with all the extra refinements and technology that could possibly throw at it. Guy loved the mix, loved the sound, loved the recording, loved my playing. And then looked at the bass, goes, oh, but it hasn't got Fender on the headstock. It's not a Fender, is it? And it's like, yeah, but does it sound, you know, through the mix, through your headphones, through the studio monitors? Are you happy with what's... Yeah, it sounds great, but it hasn't got Fender on the headstock. It's just, you felt like banging your head on the table, you know, or banging his head on the table, going, what are you talking about? It's muso snobbery a lot of the time. But as I've just said, you know, a lot of sound engineers, they see a Fender or a Precision or a Jazz and they suddenly go, oh, amazing. And they'll tell you it's better than anything else you've ever brought because it's made their job easier. So it's not a case that it sounds better. It's just made their job easier. But I'm venting, sorry. I don't mean to do that. Dave, as a good player working with good musicians in the cover band scene, did it ever bother you that lesser musicians in dodgy bands were doing the same gigs, same money, and people still love them? No, it didn't bother me at all. Invariably, those ones didn't get the wedding bookings or the private bookings or the corporate events. And also, I was blessed that in that covers band, which was called Cover Story, we had the greatest singer in the UK. So I never had any qualms about that. And for a period of that band's life, we were a 4-piece band, but we always had a 3-piece version, which meant more money in our pockets. And eventually the 4th member left and we were permanently a 3-piece, which meant the money went up. So when we were doing, well, I don't need to do the maths for you, but doing a £1,500 wedding or private booking, we're getting £500 each. Get a couple of those in a week, you're laughing. But no, I never had a problem that dodgy bands were doing the same gigs. No, each to their own. Yeah, generally, the way I always saw it was if a band wasn't very good, they weren't going to be around long. And a lot of bands that I saw come and go on the circuit usually didn't last. The good members in the band would go off and form another band, usually with good members from another band. And then the original 2 bands would disappear and there'd be one new one. I saw that happen many a time. But no, I've never had a problem. Everyone's got a gig. You can't be in a million places on, and this always made me laugh where you get these musicians who claim they're in like 10, 15, 20, 30 bands. You can't be in 30 different places on a Saturday night. Invariably gigs are Fridays and Saturdays. So it's all well and good being in 30 bands, but you can't be in all 30 on one day. So how do you do that? And I'd say actually since we came out of lockdown, since the pandemic, bands seem far less willing to accept people that are floating between bands. I think if you claim you're in the band, again, this is why I'm not as such a permanent fixture in any band. I just work for 4 or 5 on the agreement that I have first refusal on those gigs. But that's something I've worked for to have that reputation over 3.5 decades. So where I've done gigs for bands and been reliable and been conscientious and done the best job I can, that's now in my favor. But there we go. There we go. Okay, Patrick Sweeney, string spacing will be important. The wider the better. Right, so we're looking at 19 really, aren't we? I've looked at Sire M7s, good. Yamahas, good. Secondhand MTDs, all good. All good. Yamaha wise, let me see, what can I suggest? Yamaha have so many good models. Maybe you want to look at do you want passive or active, Patrick? I'm guessing MTDs, you're looking at active. Size, you're looking at active. Dave, great answers, thanks. That's what I'm here for. I have the years of experience, lots of other people don't. So, you know, if you ask me a question and I think I can help you, I'm more than happy to impart my knowledge and wisdom for what it's worth. I've been there, seen it and done it. It's quite a grounding effect, actually, coming out of lockdown, suddenly realizing I was approaching being 50. And you suddenly think, God, where did all those years go? But they do. You're just, you're working in the moment. You know, I can remember gigs I did 20 years ago and further back. But at the time, you were or for me, I was focused on earn the money, pay the mortgage, get the bills paid, buy some nice gear. Everything else will take care of itself. Just make sure the money's coming in. And we were very fortunate in Cover's story that the three of us were of the same mindset. We had a really good band. We had good contacts, good agencies. We had a constantly running circuit of gigs. So we'd have our bread and butter gigs, and then we'd have all the private weddings and functions and all of that to bolster it. And then we started to get foreign trips where we'd be away for a month and earn really good money. And we kind of beat the crap out of that. We did really well. And I think by the time I left, the guys carried on for a little while afterwards. Things were changing. Social media was changing. The younger bands coming up were far more tech savvy than the three of us were. So they were able to utilize social media to their advantage, where for us, it was becoming a harder thing to harness effectively. And also a couple of the agents we'd worked with had started to fall by the wayside, and some of them shut and some were sold on. And yeah, I think that band, for me, when I left, had kind of run its course. We'd done our thing. And the other two guys were in a very busy originals band. So for those of you who know me and know that story, you'll know what I'm referring to. But and they had to do that, you know. They were getting great opportunities and they had to go and do it. It made things very difficult. When there's only three of the band, you've got to replace 66% of the band to do people's weddings and other things. So in the end, I thought, this is too much. Can't do it. And that was that. Okay, Patrick, active definitely. Right, okay, I was going to suggest some Yamahas, so like the BBP 35, which seems very popular. It's passive. So then you've got all the other Yamahas, TRBs. You've got some of the BBs are active. So yeah, you know, with a budget of £1,500, Patrick, you can pretty much pick what you want. I mean, have you had 5-string Stingray before? Because that's kind of a market, not market leader, but it's like a industry standard, is what I'm trying to say. If you've had a 4-string Stingray, a 5-string is quite different. So if you've not tried one or not played one, maybe look at trying like a sub, see if you like the fit. Music Man subs, Sterling sub. See if you like the fit, the feel, and if you do, then you can easily sell that on and get a full-blown Stingray, maybe second-hand for £1,500. You won't get a brand new one for £1,500, that's for sure. But that's a possibility. Moment to moment. Sorry, Joe. Did you ever meet Terry Gregory? I haven't, and I've heard many stories. And I know he used to write for Bassist magazine, and also I know lots of people who've come through ICMP. Guitarist and Uncle Funk, Bobby Harrison, knows Terry, and I hear various stories. He used to write for Bassist. Yes, he did. He was my bass teacher when I was studying at music college back in 2001. So would that have been the last days of Bass Tech, I guess, before it moved to Kilburn, I would imagine. Liptech one, I want to say early 80s Yamaha BB3000 bass. I'm guessing you're replying to Patrick there. Welcome, by the way. I don't recognise the name, but welcome. Anyway, actually, I need to do a quick... we've been gassing for about 40 minutes there, guys. So I'll have a quick drink and I'll do a reiteration of the live chat. 2 seconds. Cool. That flew by, didn't it? 40 minutes. Dave, Terry plays left-handed strung upside down. He does a Lee Pomeroy. So anyone doesn't know who Lee Pomeroy is, Lee is Rick Wakeman's musical director. He also plays for Take That, ELO, Yes, with John Anderson, Trevor Rabin, and Rick Wakeman. When there's a big televised gig like the Queen's Jubilee or what have you, generally the house band tends to be organised by a guy called Mike Stevens, who is responsible for Take That, ELO, Lee ends up being the bass player for that. Lee was also the guy that sold me my first Hartke rig back in 1992 when he used to work in the bass department at Rock Bottom Music in Croydon, West Croydon. He does the same thing. So he'll play left-handed on a right-handed one strung upside down. Yeah. Or in fact, Lee will even play it strung normally. So he'll just get a standard right-handed bass, turn it upside down and play it. And you're looking at it going, but the E string's there and the G strings are, yeah, but he does it somehow. Joe, have you seen that Rob Green's just about to release some Series 2000 40th anniversary editions? Yes, I have. I know you mentioned you had 5 of them at one point. Yes, I did. Yeah, I've known about the Rob thing. That's the remastered thing that he alluded to in his semi-retirement announcement last summer. So now we're all waiting to see what the prices are going to be. I can pretty much guarantee I won't be buying one of them because I suspect they're going to be around £4,000 to £5,000 each. I've got a Series 2000 here, which I'm more than happy with. So for anyone that's not seen the bass collection video or has heard me talking about these before, here's my Series 2000. This is a 1990, maybe a 91. This used to belong to Stuart Clayton. Hi, Stu. Those of you who followed Bass Guitar Magazine and Bass Player, Stu and I worked together at the mag for many years. So I bought this off Stuart in 2002. He sold it to fund his payment for his first GB Roomer. And it's got LEDs. I don't think they're going to, no, you got to have a jack in there. So yeah, at one point I had 5 Series 2000s in my house. Because at the time you couldn't go into a store any longer and try what I was saying earlier on. You can't go into stores these days and try multiple examples of the same model to find the one you want. So the only way to do it back in 2002, was to buy them, take them home and then audition them against each other and then sell the ones you didn't want to keep and keep the one you did. Well, this one was the best of the lot for me, for my ears, and yeah, very good it is too. Got a few dings, a few bangs. It had a little bit of a sort of minor refurb with Rob back in late 2002, and the bridge plate, new Neutrik jack, had a few bashes that got sorted, but it didn't get the full refurb. That's why there's still some old dings there and a couple on here. This is number 416. But it plays great, and yeah, no complaints. But yeah, I won't be buying one of those new 40th anniversary ones. I can't afford it. And to be honest, I don't really need it. I'd be buying it, sticking the case up in the loft, and yeah, it's going to be a bun fight for those, I think. It wouldn't surprise me if they were sold before they even made it to the website. There's so many fanatical kind of status collectors and players. They'll be chewing Rob's ear off to be able to get their hands on them before everyone else. So I can't be bothered with all that. Very nice bass. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let me see if I can find a jack. Just plug this up. Idiot. Got one here, haven't I? Oh no, it's XLR. Oh, there we go. There we go. That'll do. Hopefully the mic stand won't fly across the room. Very expensive mic at the top of it, so hope not. Anyway, there we go. How's that grabbing you? So we've got sides. So when the bass came to me from Stuart, it only had the fronts, it didn't have the sides. So About 6 months after I bought it. I took my Empathy, that you'll have seen before, to the Empathy to Martin Sims to have that fully LED'd up, front and sides, and then I got him to put the fibre optics on the side here. So I wasn't having a new set of LEDs put in, he was just drilling in and putting the fibre optics in. So these side ones run off the bulb that's on the front. But yeah, all very good. There we go. So yeah. Oh, there we are. Okie dokes. Lewis Wingrove, good evening, sir. Welcome. Good to see you. Please don't forget to hit that like button, please. Thank you. Likes, comments, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. All of those things help the channel, help the video, helps to push everything along. I'll get to the hard sell bit again in a moment. The comments are sort of flying in. Scott M, hi, welcome. I've always wanted to try one of those bases. What, the Series 2000 status? They're a bit of a rarity. You don't find many of them about. So if you find one and get an opportunity to buy one, it's in good condition, I suggest you do. Liptech 1, do you use any high power tube bass amps? Yes, I do. So I have a pair, well, not entirely tube, but I have a pair of EBS Fafner amps here, which have tubes in the front end. I've got a Mesa Boogie Strategy 888 amplifier over there. And that's full of tubes. I know, because I've tried carrying it many occasions. So that's there. I've got an Aguilar DB751. Then I've got a variety of little Class D amps. I've got a Gensben Shuttle 92. There's a GK MB200. I've got the Trace Elliott Elf. I use an Aguilar AG700 predominantly for my clean sound. I've got an Ashdown Superfly up there. Got a Hartkey 200 watt combo, the 2x10 cabinet. I'm trying to think there is another amp. Then I have a variety of preamp pedals and all sorts of stuff. So yes, at some point there will be some videos with the Mesa Boogie head. It's monstrous, but I've got to find a way of recording it that sounds really good. And there's so many settings on it and features. It's an absolute mothership of an amp. So I need to spend a bit of time working that one out for you guys. But I don't have any Ampeg stuff. I kind of have a bit of a checkered history using Ampeg stuff because, and I said this in other videos, is that when I find a good one, I suddenly think, oh, this is great, it's wonderful. And then on another gig or hired in gear or rehearsal place, there'll be another one and it sounds horrendous. And there's no consistency with Ampeg because they've had so many models over the years and the reliability is sort of up and down. So yeah, not one of my favorite brands to use. Dino, if you're watching, love your work, and you know, I have a lot of appreciation and respect for Ampeg stuff. When you get some good stuff, it's fabulous. When you get a bad one, it can be it's like ugh. But personal preference, it's everyone's has their own opinion. Joe, you retracted a message. Martin Fay, good evening, sir. Hope you're well. Question, I've just bought myself a 5-string. Good. Any tips for making the transition from 4-string to 5-string? Yes. So, this is how I did it. Let's think. My first 5-string was the 5-string Stingray. So I bought my 5-string Stingray in 2001. I'd been using a 4-string Stingray for many years at that point. I used to own Mark King's 4-string that he used for, well, he bought it in 1989/1990. I think he ordered it in 89, it arrived in 90. Off the shelf, 3-band EQ, nothing special about it. It was an off the shelf Stingray. He used it on Guaranteed, Forever Now, Trash Album. Yeah. So I owned it from 1997 up until 2002. It was my main bass. So it seemed fairly obvious that if I was going to get a 5-string, I'd have got a 5-string Stingray. So I did. So that's here. Let me pull this out. so we know what we're talking about. So this was my preference at the time. I wanted one with a status graphite neck, so I did. I went in the bass centre in Wapping one day when it was still there, and here was this bass with a status graphite neck already attached, drilled, ready to go. So I bought this. So how did I learn how to play this, having been a 4-string player? So at that point, I was already au fait with using floating thumb. So rather than anchoring my thumb on a pickup and then constantly moving my fingers across the strings, I would move my thumb to dampen the string below the one I was playing. So if I was playing a G, my thumb would be on the D. If I was playing a D string, it would be on the A. If I was playing the A, it'd be on the E. So a lot of the time, I would either put my thumb on the low B or just sit it alongside the string. So I'm not actually on it, that's on it, that's on the side. And I would just practice at home, just playing E, A, D and G, and not use the B. And then once I became, for me, because it's very easy, you're playing away and you suddenly hit that B thinking that's your E string, and it ain't. And the looks you get, yeah, you don't want to be doing that. So you want to make sure you get the E, A, D and G under your fingers, okay? So then I would use it on occasional gigs, and it didn't matter that the B was there and I wasn't using it. I just wanted to get used to the string spacing, where the frets were, because also string spacing on a 5-string Stingray is quite narrow. It's not 19. I think it's 17 or 18. A little bit tighter than you would expect. So I had to get adjusted to that. And also the neck is broader. It's got to accommodate 5 strings. So the dimensions are different. Also then you got the sounds are different on a 5-string Stingray compared to a 4. So I just played the waiting game. I got really confident with just playing the E, A and D strings. Don't bother with the B, you don't need it. Or at that point I'd played for 15 years without needing a 5-string. So I thought, okay, we'll just get the 4, just use that string as a thumb rest and just mute it. And then over time, your brain starts to think, oh, the song ends in a low D. So rather than play a chord, which I sometimes would have done, I can now incorporate that low D. And I'd be thinking this before I got to that point. Oh, we end in D. So keep the thing going. And as we're approaching that part, run down to that low D. And then I might throw in the octave for it. You've got a chord there as well. And that's how I kind of did it. And just over time, you then begin to relate the positions. So I wasn't necessarily a position player. And I know some people are, they'll just stay locked in one position and cover, sorry, bass is too long, and cover those frets by keeping their hand there, or then they might move up to there. I was never kind of that way. I was okay with sort of moving sort of fluidly across the fingerboard. But learning to play 5, you then start to think, actually, I've got all these other notes here. So I don't need to move as much as I do. And if I can get my brain to go on autopilot, that it knows those notes are there, that's the way. But there's no hard and fast rule. There's no quick solution. Readers might approach it differently because they're reading the notes and they just need to know where the note is to fret it. But for me, it was just a case of, well, treat the bass as though it's a 4-string. Don't go near the bottom string. And then just over time, you began to, as I say, I began to think, well, I've got that low note there. I can include that. And a lot of the time, if you're in a band, or this is my opinion, is that if you're in a band with a keyboard player, the keyboard player does some low stuff. And Lord knows we don't want them doing that. But the low notes that a low B would cover, that you'd use, it's going to sound better on a keyboard anyway. That has predominantly, in bands that I've played with keyboard players, is why I don't use a 5. I'll use a 4, and they want those low notes, then fine, let the keyboard player do that. But for a lot of the time, I was playing in 3 and 4, sometimes 5-piece bands, didn't have a keyboard player, or there would be backing tracks. And if there was keys or sequencing on there, that would be doing the low stuff anyway, because that, again, that's going to be far clearer than that low B string. So that kind of stopped me from using this more than I have. But then when I came to do the first sort of prolonged work I did with this was playing with Bonnie Tyler in 2006. Ed Paul is and was her bass player then, and still is now. And he's an absolute monster. He's all over that low B string. And I had to copy his parts. So there were parts in there where he was using it. I just made sure. I didn't have long to learn it. I think I had like 3 weeks before first rehearsal. I've told this story before. First rehearsal was dreadful because I hadn't been sent the stuff with the bass lines audible on the tracks. I was sent a load of live recordings and you couldn't hear the bass. And when I turned up to do the first rehearsal, I'd done as much as I could off the tracks I had, but you couldn't hear the bass. When I pointed this out to the band, they went, "Oh my God, there's no bass on there. Oh, right, we're going to do you a new CD. You need to go home now, start learning it, and we'll see you tomorrow." But I put in as much work as I could based on what I had to replicate Ed's parts. So, yeah, you just kind of, I mean, I don't do a lot of 5-string playing. I just don't generally, but I'm kind of au fait with what I do. I mean, once I start getting past like 7th fret, I'm not going to use that low B to do these notes anyway. It's going to sound better on the less flappy E string rather than the B. I mean, let's be fair, I could, but I choose not to. It's like rather than play notes on a D string where you've got less bulk, I'll play them higher up on an A, but I wouldn't do that with notes on a low B. I just want them from, that's kind of it. I'm not going to use these up here, you know. So that's my take on it. I hope that kind of helps. But there's no speedy route to it. It's just persistence, practice. Find what works for you. That was the way it worked for me, was just to take the bass out and do some gigs playing material I'm familiar with. Just don't use the B. No one's going to notice in the band. As long as you cover everything on those 4 strings, then nothing has changed. So yeah, I hope that helps. That's why I'm getting, Lewis, that's why I'm getting an Ampeg cab, like these eminent speakers and a Mesa Boogie Head WD-800. Ajit, that's the drummer from Uncle Funk. He's on my live chat. Ajit, good to see you. I'll see you Friday, brother. We'll have some fun. Stunning finish, mate. What are we talking about? This Honeyburst, translucent Honeyburst, that is, allegedly. Lewis Wingrove, I personally prefer dual humbuckers for my thumb rest, and I also practice using the upper string as a rest. I can even use the invisible plexi. I just need more fretwork practice. Very good. Martin, that's very helpful. Thank you. It's what we're here for, sir. Liptech, I once asked Billy Sheehan if he would ever play a 5 or 6 string bass. Well, he has, and on record. And he said to me, when I master the 4 string, then I'll think about it. Yeah, but he does use a 6 string on Just Take My Heart on Lean Into It. So that is his 6 string TRB Yamaha that you hear, making those piano-like bass tones. So that's how that works. Yeah. Yes, sir. So here we are, Brooks's Bass Corner, live chat number 37. It's Tuesday evening. It is now just coming up 9:30 here in the UK. Hope you're all safe and well wherever you are in the world. Hope everything's good with you. Thank you for attending tonight's live chat. If you're watching this after the event and you can't access the live chat window, don't worry. You can still communicate and get involved by leaving comments below. They then come through to me I'll respond to them over days, weeks, months as they come in. So if you've got any questions or comments about what we're talking about or things that on the channel, feel free to contribute and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. If you aren't already subscribed to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button below. Hit the notification bell so you get notifications when I post up new videos or post comments on the community tab. If you give the video a thumbs up, that'd be really great. Comments are good on any of the videos. That all goes towards helping the YouTube algorithm. And if you wish to make any financial contributions to the channel, you can do that in 2 ways. Actually, there's 4 ways, but we'll do the first 2 first. So in the live chat window, if you're on the mobile app, it's below this video window. If you're on the desktop, it's that way. You'll see an emoji icon. Knock yourselves out. Add emojis as you wish. It's all good. There's also next to that a dollar symbol. That's called Super Chat. So if you wish to make a financial contribution to the channel, maybe you like this video, you like the channel, you like some of the other videos, you can hit that button and donate money to the channel. It's all very much appreciated. That money then goes towards me keeping the channel up and running, allows me to book studio time, buy equipment, lights, boom stands, leads, software for mixing, audio, graphics work. It also allows me to buy items that you see in the reviews and demos here on the channel. If you don't want to do it in the super chat, you can do it through any video here on the channel because we're monetized. So underneath every video, you'll see a thumbs up, a thumbs down. You'll see a share arrow. There's also a save button that allows you to save a video so you can watch it later. You'll also see a love heart with a dollar symbol. That's called super thanks. Works in exactly the same way as super chat. So if you enjoy a particular video, enjoy a particular creator or content on their channel, you can hit that super thanks button and donate financially to the channel. The other couple of ways you can contribute to the channel, in the description box for this video from tomorrow, but also in the description boxes for all the other videos, you'll find affiliate links for Thomann and Amazon. No matter where you are in the world. Stacey Ann, thank you very much for your super chat donation of $9.99. Thank you very much appreciated. So there are affiliate links for Thomann and Amazon. The way that works is if you're thinking of buying a new bass, pedal, picks, leads, bags, gig bags, cases, amplifiers, anything to do with basses. If you go to the storefront, whether you're in the UK or Europe or in the US, there are separate Amazon stores for kind of both continents. So Amazon.com for those of you in the US, Amazon.co.uk for here in the UK and Europe. I've put loads of bass related items in those stores. Hopefully if there's something there that you would like to buy or you've got on your shopping list, if you go through and purchase the product, making sure it's not already in your basket before you purchase it. It has to be a completely clean purchase. So if you find an item you want, add it to your basket, you go through, complete the transaction. Once the product arrives with you at home, the channel then receives an affiliate commission. So through buying something, Amazon then gives us a payment. That's how that works. As of tomorrow, fingers crossed, I keep promising it, there will be merchandise here on the channel. So underneath every video here on Brooks's Bass Corner, you'll see a storefront window with 12 items of merchandise, which I'm going to seasonally update. So when we go into summer, there'll be less hoodies, sweatshirts, jackets, woolly hats. It'll be shorts and various different t-shirts. So seasonally, I will update the offerings that are here. It's all going to have graphics based on Brooks's Bass Corner. Hope to have that up tomorrow. So if you buy those products, again, the channel will receive an affiliate commission from the hosting store. That should be up tomorrow. I will try my damnedest to get it up for you. Okay, let's have a look. Ajit, so glad I've managed to catch the live. Super interesting to hear your insight on the 5-string. Looking forward to Friday. You know it. Yes, you do. Anyone that would like to follow Ajit's channel, fabulous drummer. Fabulous. It's a pleasure to play in a band with the man. Possibly with the greatest snare sound I've heard in many years. And I've told him that every gig. Don't sell that snare. It's amazing. Ajit's great. Even if you don't play drums, loads of stuff on his channel is really good. You also get to see some of the stuff that he films behind the scenes when we're out on gigs. He's always got his camera going. So there's stuff on stage, stuff backstage. You want to see some of the festivals we play? He's the man. I don't know where he stores all this footage, but Lewis, can you recommend a great preamp pedal for bass? Yes, I can. And how long have you got? Because there are so many really good ones. So I use, on my pedal board, I use the Aguilar Tone Hammer, the pedal, not the amplifier. I have the pedal, which is basically the preamp innards that's in the amp, just without the power section. Then you've also got the EBS Microbass 2 and Microbass 3, both really good. You've got the MXR bass preamp. I think Boss do one as well. There's also the Battalion, which is a great preamp from Electro Harmonics. And in fact, most of the amp manufacturers now have bass preamps. So it's really a case, Lewis, you've either got to watch a load of YouTube videos to hear the demos, or you need to get to a store that's got a bunch and you can try them out. Give me some more input in terms of what you want that preamp pedal to do. Are you just looking for a really, really great tone, or are you looking for features on that pedal? A lot of people who like Ampeg stuff use the SCR1 Ampeg pedal, which basically replaces using an Ampeg amp if they're trying to travel light. You might also want to look at some of the Origin effects? And they've got really great preamp modelers of Ampeg and Fender amps. Loads of people saying good things. They're not cheap, but they're meant to be really good. I'm looking at Tech 21 Q strip, okay, or an Ibanez Pentatone. I've still got your thing from last week. Yes, Ibanez Pentatone preamp pedal, request for review. I've got to send that off to Headstock Distribution here in the UK. I will get on that. If you can hold on, Lewis, I might well do a video on bass preamps that I've got. So up to you. You don't have to hold on till that video's ready, but if you want to, it's all cool. Stacey, thank you for all the knowledge shared. Pleasure. That's what we're here for. Joe, what new basses have you got your eye on in the future? Well, as I said at the top of the video, hopefully, fingers crossed, got a new bass coming in this weekend, which I'm buying predominantly for doing videos here on the channel, but I'm going to use on a couple of the projects I play in as well. I won't give the game away yet, but providing the transaction goes through at the weekend, I'll present it on the next live chat. So that gives you a reason to come back and watch next time, doesn't it? But what new bass have I got my eye on in the future? Someone was asking me the other day, what bass have you not got that you would like to own? I would love a Series 2 Alembic. I know I've got 2 Alembics behind me, but they're not Series 2. Trying to find a Series 2 that financially works, that's another thing entirely. I think the days of cheap Alembic basses are gone. Hold on, I'm talking and you can't see me. Yeah, I think something weird happened during COVID and during lockdown. And I don't know if it was the fact that people, certainly here in the UK, were getting furlough payments, or people suddenly found themselves with lots of money, because certainly for the huge swathes of the British population, and I'm sure around the world, not being able to work meant you had no money. But for some reason, very easy on eBay and Reverb to watch sales of basses. For some reason, Alembic started going up in price. I don't know if that was the fact that people thought maybe their lifespan, their days might be numbered and they wanted to own nice basses before they died. I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is, but for some reason, really nice Alembics, like those two, suddenly shot up in price, almost double. And I've not seen a Series 1 Alembic go for anything less than £5,000 to £6,000. Well, 10 years ago, you could get one probably for about three and a half. You can't now. And the Series 2 being the full bells and whistles package that Alembic produce electronically, I've not seen a nice Series 2 go for anything less than about £7,000. And to be honest, I'm not going to spend that. So I would love one, but I don't think it's going to happen. And actually, Joe, moment to moment, what new bass you got your eye on in the future? My new fretless should be here. Maybe tomorrow, might be Thursday. So there could be 2 basses to show you on the next video. Patrick, I have an Aguilar preamp on my pedal board, Lewis. I really like it. I love the Aguilar tone hammer. Pat, it's so easy. Everything about it makes sense. And you can make changes on the fly. Nothing's going to catch you out. And many sound men who've taken feeds off of it since we came out of lockdown, I've been using that on loads of gigs because a lot of the time I don't have an amp anymore, have said that preamp just sounds amazing. Like really great, clean signal. When I kick the AGS circuit in, just sounds great. The tonal adjustments, just great. Simple gear works for me. I don't need 1,000,001 options. It's just more things to go wrong. You just want good, simple, reliable. Martin Fay, flame sunglasses. Yes, sir. Yes, I have a pair. Yes, indeed. Lewis, thanks, Patrick. Great. Ajit, thanks, Mike. Very kindly. You can't wait to get my hands on some Brooks's merch. Yeah, you know it. It's coming your way. I've got a thong ordered for you. Yeah, nice chamois thong. Martin Fay, 2-note, the bass preamp is great. Yes, very good. They are really good. I use this, which is my Audience Sono. I'm trying to see if you can see it. There's a cable stopping movement. Oh, there we go. So this is my Audience Sono interface that I do all the audio recordings for all the videos on. And this has, it was actually designed predominantly for guitar players because it's got a valve in, but it also works for bass. If you use all of its facility and you sign up to the 2 notes, I think it's Torpedo, it basically allows you to do all the amp emulations and stuff, but it's based around cabinet design, not amplifier design. There's a video on the channel, and I'll put a link for it in the description box. I did a video demo for the company, and we spent a day going through all different speakers and what have you. And I took like 10 basses along, and we tried different basses through different cabinet permutations and what have you. Really clever stuff. But I just don't use it for this. I want clean signals on my demos. I don't need amp emulations. But this box, this Audience Sono box, is great. I don't know if you can still buy it. It's probably been superseded because this has been out for like 4 years, I think, 4 or 5 years. But it's really, really good. And if you've got any guitar playing friends, having that tube in there, it just sounds great. There's a guitar demo on YouTube, a whole bunch of guitar demos on YouTube, but it just works really good. I love it. Great piece of kit. Lewis Wingrove, I'm holding on. Good man. I'm on Noisegate next month. Great. Hopefully it's worth the money. Yeah. Fat fingers. No worries, man. Liptech retail Alembic Series 1, 30,000. Yeah, but that's when you do that. When you go through the Alembic price thing, that doesn't take into account all the discounts you get through distributors. There are, it might say 30,000. You'll probably get that down to like 14 or 15 with various discounts that occur. But still, I mean, I would never buy an Alembic brand new. I'm never going to have that sort of money. But second hand, they're just not viable at the moment, I don't think. Fanfret Steve, when playing 5-string, muting is more important. Absolutely. You don't want that low B producing ghost resonance at all. So mastering floating thumb technique is important. Correct. That's what I was implying. Cheers, Steve. I also like to play from the 5th fret, i.e. E on the B string and across rather than at the nut position. Yeah, it gives a warmer tone. Yeah, I get you. Lewis, Tech 21 is a single channel 70s recording studio mixer clone. The Ibanez is everything like Noisegate, 5-band EQ and parametric EQ. Okay, got you. I love features that make sense. Yes, no, totally. Well, I've got obviously the original Sons amps, the bass driver. So I bought that in 1998. I know they've moved along since, so I may have to buy the more recent version that's got mids and frequencies and stuff on it. So I need to do that. Joe, just sent you £5 super chat, but it's in a pending state in my bank app. It's the first time I've added a card to this account. Well, thank you very much, Joe. If it doesn't go through, feel free, for any reason, if it doesn't go through or the banking app causes a problem, you can always do it again via Super Thanks after the event. So that's cool. But the fact you want to donate to the channel, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Thank you. So here we are, Brooks's Base Corner live chat number 37. It is 9:45 Tuesday evening here in London in the UK. It is cold here. We're waiting for spring to arrive and it hasn't yet. So hopefully in the next week or two, it will start to get a bit warmer. Once it does, I can start doing workshop videos again from the garage. So if you watched the setup and cleanup of the Status Empathy, that video, that was done last July. So I will be doing some more workshop videos very, very soon. The latest acquisition, which you will have seen at the start of the video, if you start the live chat, if you're watching, this is very fetching candy apple red Ibanez. It's an SR300 EB, cheaper end of their range, but I've just picked this up second hand. It's going to feature in a load of videos here on the channel. So it's going to be getting a good setup, clean. The fingerboard's going to get conditioned, and truss rod needs a little tweak, nothing major. Frets are all good, pickups good. Bridge is okay, but we'll check it once I get it in the workshop. Otherwise, very clean. Good, very good condition actually. Bass, no serious bangs. Got a little nick here on the back. That's all right. So I'm going to be doing. There'll be a review video, demo video, cheap bass overview. This will feature in there. Really great bass for the money. I reviewed one of these back in 2007 for Bass Guitar Magazine. Really impressed. I've always been a fan of the Ibanez Sound Gear range. Some people don't like them. They say, oh, they're too thin, insubstantial. No, they're not. They're great for the money. When you look at the selling price brand new, these are great. 3-band EQ, volume, pickup pan, and then a 3-way switch, which I think is for mid frequencies. I don't think it's an active passive, but anyway, great bass. So there'll be a workshop video on this very soon. I'm still trying to decide what strings are going on it. I'm thinking it's going to get 4000 nickels, but I'm going to give it these strings are dead. I mean, they're really, it's like rubber bands. In fact, the E string is probably the most lively of the lot, which is surprising. But they're a fairly dead set of D'Addarios. I'm thinking they're going to get 4000 nickels, or maybe Rotosound Rotos, which are nickel. We'll see. I'll pluck something out of the string box and we'll see how we go. But yeah, really looking forward to getting this up on the channel. And then there's a whole bunch of other basses here that haven't had any workshop love for, well, probably since we would, during lockdown. So the first months of lockdown, I did a whole load of stuff in my garage with all the basses, getting them all set up. I thought, well, I got the time, going to do everything, set them all up, check everything out. Not knowing I was going to do a YouTube channel about a month later. So I could have filmed all that stuff. I would have had loads and loads of really good workshop videos. But never mind. I didn't know that. But the whole idea for Brooks's Bass Corner came to me while I was in there sorting all my basses out. And the name, I can remember it distinctly. I think I was working on a GB. I think it was on the Kingfisher Blue GB. And I just thought, Brooks's Bass Corner. How about that? I didn't even have to think of it. I thought, yeah, I can do that. And here we are nearly 3 years later. So yeah. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending the live chats, enjoying the videos, all the comments, all the likes, all the love. It's really appreciated. Without you guys, there's no point me doing it, because that would just be me putting videos up for the sake of it. So the fact you guys come back week after week, come back to the videos, I really do appreciate it. It's yeah, it's slow progress, but we're getting there. It's all good. Thank you. Let's see, where are we? We are here. Joe, I'll keep an eye on it. Good man. Cheers. Martin Fay, any chance of Uncle Funk making a visit to Ireland? We would love to. If someone wants to book it, you can get in touch with Simon, who is Uncle Funk. Just go to the Uncle Funk website. There will be all the contact details there. We'll come to Ireland. If someone's paying the money for us to come, we'll come. The only thing about it is we're a 9-piece band with a sound man. It's 10 people, 10 flights. Not cheap, but yeah, we'd love to come to Ireland. I don't know if the old version of Uncle Funk came over. Might have done. I don't know. But yeah, if you know someone wants to book us, go to the Uncle Funk website. I think it's unclefunk.co.uk. And all the contact details are there. Liptech One, Ibanez sound gear bases have nice, slim, fast necks. Yes, they do. And that one is kind of immaculate. There's no dings or scrapes or bashes or anything on it. So yeah, that neck is great. Lewis, I have a preference for passive pickups. Okay, my pedal board is magnifying the signal enough for me. Cool. Most pickups, unless you buy EMGs, most pickups are passive anyway. The active side of things normally comes from the circuit. However, some brands will have active pickups and an active circuit. That's when things start to get a little complicated tonally, and it can just be too much. It becomes overpowering. That's why the Betsy works well, because that's active EMGs, but a passive tone circuit. So, yeah. Lewis, I love to tear those active pickups out. Ha! Until I get a set of Fishman's and a dark glass tone capsule. Man, I love the dark glass stuff. I have a tone capsule in the Dingwall NG2 to my left, the Ferrari yellow 5-string that you'll have seen before. Joe, are you working on some original music yourself, more bass inspired? No. No. My whole thing with original music kind of came to a grinding halt in 2001, 2002. So when I first turned pro, which was 95, I joined a glam rock tribute band. So that was earning me money. And from 95, although if you go all the way back to the point I came up to London to go to university, so from 1991, I was always looking for original bands, original artists to play for, and did a whole load of that. Did 1,000,001 auditions and rehearsals, and how can I put it without getting told off by YouTube? Dog crap original gigs. So did loads of those. And then round about 2000, 2001, 2002, my covers band was starting to get busy. And every time you booked original gigs with an original artist or original band, they would clash cover gigs. So you then had to weigh up, do I want to do a covers gig and earn between £100 and £300, or do I want to do an originals gig, probably earn nothing, potentially get a parking fine, have to pay for all my drinks, my food, and stand around and wait for hours? And in the end, I thought, you're gonna have to make a decision here. You can't realistically do both and do them both well. So from about 2001, 2002, unless an original artist wanted me to work, say I did some with an original artist who was signed to a record company, so all the rehearsals and gigs were paid for. Unless I was doing original stuff and being paid for it, I would not put a covers gig second to an originals gig. So I kind of stopped doing original stuff. And to be honest, the covers thing blew up so magnificently that we were doing 5, 6, 7 gigs a week, that sometimes it wasn't that many, sometimes it'd be 3 a week, but I was consistently busy from about 2000, the latter part of 2000, with that band through until the day I left. So 15 years. So doing original stuff just kind of fell off the radar. So in answer to your question, no. I don't work on original music. If an artist asks me to do recording stuff for them, then great, but I won't pay them for it. I'm not writing the material, so if anything took off, I'm never going to see a penny for it. And for me, it comes down to how much time is there in the day. So I'm very aware that I'm 50, and I don't want to go on a downer, but I've only got so many years left. So I don't want to do stuff that saps my time and there's no reward in it at the end. So either it has to pay me or I'm getting a writing credit, and no one ever wants to share writing credits. So that's the way it kind of works for me. And I've no problem with that. I've met many original musicians that look down their nose at doing the covers thing, and they still don't earn very much money, and they live in a nasty, grotty little flat somewhere. But that wasn't for me. I knew kind of what I wanted to do, and do it. I have, that's do the covers gigs, make your money, not be scraping by, and see where you get. So yeah, but that's not the same for everyone. Some people don't want to do that. They want to do loads of original stuff. I would have liked my whole plan was to be in an originals band that got a record deal, got famous, did world tours. Didn't we all? We all wanted to do that. Sadly, as I turned professional, the whole music industry was changing, and within 5 years Napster was out, MP3s had become a thing, broadband appeared, and then we had Pop Idol and American Idol and X Factor, and everything changed. How many big bands have come out in the past 20 years? Coldplay, One Direction, which came out of X Factor. That's not a band, that's a group. How many big bands have there been? Not that many. So yeah, I'm not bitter. I've had a great career, and hopefully it'll carry on as long as possible. I'll carry on playing till they put me in my box, really. Okay, Fanfret Steve, doesn't having your basses so close to the radiator affect the neck relief? Nope. Someone else commented on that a couple of weeks ago on another live chat. No. So they're not right up against it. They're kind of back a bit, but the heat generally in our house doesn't drop below 18. At night it might drop a little lower, but generally I'm on top of all of the neck reliefs on all these basses twice a year. Once, well, it's going to happen soon, so there'll be one in March and probably one in October, and you can sit in here and hear a pin drop, and you'll hear all the strings go ding, ding, ding. It's like wind chimes, ding, 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 and it's all the necks just moving slightly because air pressure, temperature, and humidity change. It's nothing to do with the radiators. I've got a few graphite neck basses, so they don't move. The alembics pretty much behave themselves, and all the other basses. Generally, if I'm going to be using a bass that I don't use all the time, if I'm using something on a gig, I'll check it all out a couple of days before the gig, and I'll always take my big set of Allen keys with me on a gig in case I need to make an adjustment on the gig. But generally, everything works pretty well. To be honest, I've not had any major issues by having those basses near the rad. So, no Fanfret Steve. But I do, like, some of the basses might not come off the rack for a year, and so you'll have those two adjustments where you get the spring adjustment, the autumn adjustment. They just cancel each other out. So when I was doing all the adjustments during lockdown, most of the basses didn't need anything. If anything, a couple of them just needed strings change. But I checked every single bass for relief, pickup height, action, intonation. And it wasn't such a daunting job. After I'd done about the first 3 or 4, I realised most of them actually didn't need any adjustments anyway. Sorry, I keep looking at the screens. Cameras here, sorry. Liptech, those basses are just a little more cozy. Exactly. Toasty warm. But no, I don't really get any neck relief problems with that. Loose Wingrow, keeping the wood in a stable temperature is key for keeping a straight neck and a happy instrument. Thank you. But I live in California, so it's easy for you to say, yeah. Yeah, here in the UK, it's a little different. Littech 1, Muse. We're talking because I mentioned status. I'm guessing. Lewis, I'm not seeing your latest message pop up on... I see why. Because that's not... I want to see that. There we go. Record contact in slavery. They are counting on you failing with your advance. Of course. They will own your musical life is the popular belief in California. Hollywood is evil. Yeah, I've never been privy to record company advances. I was working in a wedding band last year and the year before with a guy who had and he'd basically done very well. He'd managed to have an advance, and for whatever reason the band got dropped and they never had to pay the advance back, and he made a fortune and managed to open up a studio and was doing all right with that. Joe, did you ever own a JD? Yes, I did, and I'll come back to it. In another video, you mentioned that when you got your first expensive bass, you couldn't quite stretch to a JD. Yeah. So in the bass collection video, the first proper bass I bought. So my first bass was a Marlin Sidewinder, which was very good, fine to begin with. Then I had a Hohner Jack, natural finish. This was 1988, so they were status copies. I then saved a load of money and wanted to buy something serious. And on my 18th birthday, I went up to London with my mate Jamie and went around all the bass shops we knew and all the guitar shops and just couldn't really find anything I really wanted. Back then, had I known how much I would love Music Man Stingrays, I probably would have bought one and probably could have bought one for like £500 that day. But I hadn't been educated on the joys of a Stingray at that point. I was looking at Fender Precision lights because they hadn't been out long. They hadn't been out for a year or two. And it was an active Fender, lightweight, loved the idea. Saw a black one. Actually, on that day, we saw black, red and white. Then went down to the bass centre in Wapping. They had a couple of basses in there I liked the look of. The one that I really wanted was the white JD. I'm guessing it was a Supernatural. It probably was a Series 2 with the funk groove, but I can't remember. But they wouldn't budge on the price. And looking back, I should have just paid it. But I didn't want to spend what they were asking. Went back to Soho Soundhouse and bought the Fender. So that's that story. But yes, JD, yes, I did own one. I bought one secondhand from Loot in... Loot was the ads paper that preceded Gumtree. So I bought a second-hand JD Series 2 from a guy in, I think it was like Finchley. And what he'd done was he'd ripped the electronic guts out of it and put them in a bass that he had made. And he'd cobbled together a little circuit board. I didn't know any of this until I took the back plate off sometime later. And he sold me the bass for 275 quid. I thought I was getting a steal. I was like, wow, okay. Don't play the idiot. Just take the bass, pay the money and walk out there. So I did. When I got the bass home and I'm playing it and it's like, okay, this needs adjustment. I didn't have the socket wrench to change the truss rod. It probably hadn't been set up in ages. I had to wait for JD to send me one. We didn't have the internet really then. So this was August 98. And I certainly didn't have internet access at that point. What I should have done was ask JD to, if I'd sent the bass to him, could he put a circuit in it? Didn't do that. And about 6 months later, realizing this guy had nicked the circuit out. I mean, this thing was literally like a square. It's like a Post-it note. And it had like a minimum amount of components on it. It was a joke. And I got an EMG 3-band EQ circuit put in, which seems a bit daft, but at the time, you know, replacement circuits weren't everywhere. We didn't have John East doing his thing and what have you. And but the problem with the bass was it constantly needed adjustment. I spent more time adjusting it than I did playing it. I tried every gauge of string on it to try and even tried 4505s. This bass was not having it. It was built in 1986 and it was one of a whole load that came out of JD, sadly, at that time. They simply couldn't keep up with the Mark King effect. They were hiring people who maybe weren't, don't want to say weren't qualified, but they didn't know really what they were doing. And the woodworking, sealing and getting these woods through, well, set necks, aren't they? So, but this thing had a banana neck like you wouldn't believe. And I'd get it straight and then within half an hour it would go again, and it just became impossible. The back of the neck going through the body and the through neck, all the lacquer was starting to crack, and the ebony fingerboard started to get splits. So the way ebony timber works is if you get lucky and you lubricate it and look after it, condition it, it'll see you through. If you don't look after it and it dries, it starts to pull apart. And there were 3 or 4 of these splits on the fingerboard. And I just thought, this doesn't bode well, really, does it? So after the MG circuit was put in, I did a bunch of gigs with it and it just didn't fit. The Stingray I had was a much better bass. JD's, great, but they're big cut. It's like doing a covers gig with an alembic. It's probably not ideal. Sometimes it is. It depends on the stage, the band, but the JD sound is it is what it is, and it just didn't fit with the band I was in. So I sold it. I put it up for sale at the bass centre, and some guy somewhere bought that bass. I think I got about £1,000 for it, 1,200 quid, something like that. I know, a JD for 275. I should have probably ploughed some money into it and got it the way it should have been. But to be honest, I probably wouldn't have played it. I've been much happier with the other basses I've had since. So, and that was selling that, and then selling the Mark King Stingray was all part of me moving towards using status basses. So what goes around comes around, and that worked fine for me. Liptech One, no, Muse is a boy band that has been doing a lot in the last 20 years. Hey? The band Muse I know is a 3-piece prog rock stadium filling band. Same thing. Or are you talking about a band called Muse maybe in America? I don't know. Fill me in. Elaborate. Okay, here we are, Brooks's Bass Corner, live chat number 37. I'm Mike Brooks. Welcome, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're all safe and well and doing well out there. We're talking bass guitars, bass amplifiers, bass speakers, bass effects, bass accessories, great bass players, bands that had great bass players, albums with great bass lines on. You want to talk about anything to do with bass guitars? Here's the place. Put your comments in the live chat window. If you're on the mobile app, it's below this window. If you're on the desktop, it's that way. If you wish to financially donate to the channel, keep the channel rolling, keep it all moving. At the bottom of the live chat window, you see an emoji icon. Knock yourselves out with that. Add emojis as you wish. YouTube algorithm loves it. So if you all want to pummel the emoji icon, go for it. There's also a dollar symbol next to it. That's called Super Chat. Allows you to donate financially to the channel. Below the video window, you'll see icons for thumbs up. So if you wish to like the video, do that. Thumbs down if you don't like the video. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Leave comments. That's all good. You can, where the icons are, you'll see thumbs up, thumbs down, share arrow, save button. There's also a love heart with a dollar symbol. It's called Super Thanks. Works in exactly the same way as Super Chat. Just allows you to donate money to the channel. That's how that works. I've just seen messages popping up all the time. It's great. Joe, I know what you mean about the JD tone. I own a new Series 2. Are you the Joe that keeps posting on Bass Chat and you've just bought a status as well? I think you might be. You've got the blue Series 2 JD? Maybe. If so, well done, sir. Great purchases. I love your status, by the way. I own a new Series 2 and have 2 more on order. That'll be 3. That's just greedy. Great basses, but have an acquired taste. Mark King, for me, is such a huge influence. Those albums that he used JDs on are monstrous. That sound is what it is. But for me, I always preferred his sound with the alembics. That was a baptism of fire for me. I'd been playing since October 87. I saw Mark at Wembley Arena in January 89. So he just moved over to alembic. And he had his Series 2s with all the LEDs and stuff. I heard that bass in Wembley Arena and it was life-changing. And then for the Fate Company video to come out and you could hear all those tones on your telly, and it was like, oh, I've got to have an alembic at some point. They then didn't tour again until the Hammersmith shows at the end of 1990. But the week before those Hammersmith shows, Level 42 did 3 warm-up shows. One at Cardiff University, one at Leeds University, and one at Norwich UEA. I was at the Cardiff gig, the first night. So they hadn't done any shows since the end of the Staring at the Sun tour in 89. I was there in Cardiff in a small university students' union performance hall. And those alembics were mighty in front of me. It was like, and that's kind of what made me a huge alembic fan. So for me, as much as I love the JD tones, I always preferred his alembic tone. Just seemed to have more colours to it. But that's just me. That's just my personal preference. So if you love JDs, you go for it, man. I have no problem with that. Patrick Sweeney, he means Muse are a big band despite X Factor. Thank you, Patrick. This is what I love about our live chats. If I miss the point, someone else picks it up. Fabulous. Checks in the post, Patrick. Right, Lewis, Warner Brothers just went stupid. They're selling their contracts. Goo Goo Dolls just purchased their music. Yeah, right. He said, well, the record companies are all suffering. I have no sympathy for record companies, but there we go. He said, more bands are coming back. Great news for the music industry. Cool. Blame Lewis. Good to see you. Yeah, had a King bass a few years back. Loved it, but had to get rid. Understood. Not really feasible in a top 40 covers band. Well, I saw the Illegal Eagles had a bass player in 2015. It's not the guy they've got now. That's Trevor Newnham. It's probably the bass player before him. And he was using a King bass on an Eagles gig. And I'm thinking, that's so inappropriate, just visually. But if you closed your eyes and listened to it, it sounded great. Just looked wrong. But there we go. Got a Fender Marcus Miller Jazz, absolute workhorse. Good choice, sir. There's one in my rack right there. Yeah. Martin Fay, as a pro bass player, what do you look for when choosing a bass for gigging with? Cool. Now then. So I went through a real period in the 2000s. So up until that point, I'd pretty much been using Music Man Stingray and my Kubicki, the pink one before it became a fretless, as my two main basses. And then I kind of decided, so I sold the JD and I decided to sell the Mark King Stingray because someone made me an offer on it. And I knew Morgan Roussel, who runs level42.com for Mark and the band, was collecting Mark's old basses. And so I gave him a shot. I said, look, would you be interested in buying this? Oh, absolutely. And he made a far better offer than the guy that had tried to buy it off me. So I sold it to him. I then used that money to buy a new EBS rig because my Hartkey rig was starting to give me some grief. And everyone was raving about EBS. So I used that. And then I decided that I kind of wanted to go down the status route. I'd always wanted good statuses, but I always thought, you're going to have to address this and buy some. You can't really emulate a lot of the status tones on any other bass. So I went looking and I was learning from scratch because there were so many status models. And also at that time, status were kind of, they hadn't disappeared, but they had been lumbered in as part of the deal with Trace Elliott, I think, to Gibson. And something was going on with status. And also Mark King and Rob were getting together to sort the King bass thing out. And that was a huge shot in the arm for status. So I was like, right, well, there's all these models and I don't know what the tonal differences are. So I kind of put my thinking cap on. We just got broadband, so you could now start to really hunt online for information about stuff. And I kind of drew up a list of all the status basses, what the different ranges were, the different models, what the features were. And from that, I surmised that I wanted an Empathy and I wanted a Series 2000. So that then started that path of me owning 5 Series 2000s. I bought the red Empathy behind me. I think, what else did I buy? Bought the T-Bass, number 11 or 15. Where is it? It's in the gig bag over there. And so I was going down a status route. And what was surprising was that the basses I wanted to be using live, once I bought them, weren't sounding how I wanted them to sound with my covers band. So I had to readjust those basses, and the empathy very nearly left. I didn't really use it very much. I couldn't get on with it, couldn't get on with the EQ. What it turned out was also the way it was set up and the strings that were on it when I bought it weren't doing it any favors. And about 5 years later, after I bought it, I said, right, I'm going to give it a month. If I can't make this bass work in this band, within a month, it's going. Thankfully, I did. I managed to get it to work perfectly. It's been my main gigging bass since about 2007. So when I'm choosing a bass for gigging with, it depends what the band is. It depends what the frequency spread in that band is. So by that, what I mean is, in my old covers band, we were a 4-piece: drums, bass, 2 guitars, all singing, some backing tracks. Sadly, our second guitarist in that band used to play through a huge Marshall keyboard amp and keyboard cab. I think it had 12s in it. It could have had a 15 in it. Because he had got used over many years of playing in bands where he needed to cover the bass end. So he was playing in small covers bands, and that thing where guitarists were using big Marshalls with loads of bottom end and lots of top, and he was sapping all my bass frequencies. So we managed to find a way across our frequency spread that the gear I used kind of cut through, but also had really good sort of solid low mids. So if he was on the gig and he was pumping out loads of bottom end on guitar, I was kind of going over the top of some of that. So that, once I had the 3-band EQ on the Stingray, and when I joined that band, I already had that bass. That's what set me on the path of always pretty much wanting a 3-band EQ on a bass, so I can make adjustments on a gig and cut through. If I then went back to an active bass with a 2-band EQ, I instantly missed the mids, which is, I said in that video on the bass collection, the biggest thing missing on a Kabiki Factor is no mid EQ. And actually the Series 2000 Status doesn't have any mid EQ, and I really notice it with that. So so when it comes to picking a bass for a gig, depends on the band, depends on the frequency spread, and then it depends on the material. So there's no point me using like an alembic on a soul gig. That doesn't really kind of work. Even though I can EQ it and make it sound good, you really want a passive bass with a split P or 2 single coils in for that sort of gig. But then with like Uncle Funk, we're a disco band. Everyone always assumes I'm going to use a Stingray or a Jazz or maybe a Precision. I don't. I either use, well, for the most part, when the band came out of lockdown, I was using the Kingfisher Blue GB, which I still use often. So this is my bass made for me by Bernie Goodfellow at GB Guitars. So I was using that. And then last year I bought, as a 50th birthday present to myself, I bought another GB Roomer from Bernie. This is one of his old demo basses that got refinished and tarted up, but this also has the sound to light system, so I can't show you that without it being plugged into an amp. So I was predominantly using this from the point I bought it last year, and this is great. Matching headstock and all of that, looks great. White bass, can't go wrong. And then because I was doing the the bass string experiment videos, so since the end of July, I've been using this pretty much on everything apart from Queen gigs, because I need to use precisions. So this is my Status Empathy. That's got LEDs in as well. Where are we? Here we go. So this has done all the Uncle Funk gigs, all the ABBA gigs, and various sort of covers and function bands as well. So once we come to the end of the bass string experiment, these strings go and it's time to restring and what have you, I'll revert back to that white GB for Uncle Funk. So Generally, for me, Martin, choosing a bass to gig with depends on the band, depends on the frequency spread, depends what the material is. Generally, as a rule of thumb for me, it needs to have power. And I found some basses don't have power. Not like this, not like the GBs. The loudest bass I've ever played is my T bass, which is over there in a gig bag. But if it doesn't have that heft that carries everything, I know it's not the right bass. But I want 3-band EQ. I want to be able to tailor and sort of sculpt my tone within about 2 or 3 songs of a set. If I can't do that on the bass, it ain't going to work, and I'm going to have a face on for the rest of the gig. So that's kind of it. I don't need anything particularly heavy or particularly light. But that's it, really. It's more a, can I feel the bass, whether I've got an amp or not, or whether I'm on in-ears. And when I'm listening to the mix of the band, am I serving the band right? Because if the bass and what I'm playing doesn't sound right, then it's not going to work. So that would be it, I think, in a potted, in a cut down form. That would be my criteria for choosing a bass to gig with. Clearly, I don't want something that's going to fall to bits, or any of the hardware falling off, or, you know, strings keep breaking, or that sort of thing. But yeah, that's pretty much my criteria for a gigging bass. Joe, yes, that's me on Bass Chat. Well, very good. I enjoy your videos. Thank you. Martin, thank you very much for that. Thanks. Thank you, Martin Fay, for your super chat donation. €5. Thank you. Very much appreciated. If anyone else watching the video wishes to donate to the channel, you can do so by hitting the super chat button at the bottom of the live chat window, or you can hit the super thanks button, which is a love heart with a dollar symbol in, which sits alongside the icons underneath this video window. And you can do that at any time. If you're watching this video after the event, just hit the super thanks button and you can financially donate to the channel. Thank you. Joe, I always thought Mark King's best tone was on the guaranteed live video of his 2 Alembics. There you go, series 2. However, let me throw a little something into the discussion, Joe. So for me, so Mark's best tones for me are on the Alembics. However, okay, so this is a Status Matrix. These came out in 1990. They were the first headed basses that Status made. Not to be confused with the Status Energy. This is a Status Matrix. So through graphite neck, kind of set neck more than anything, actually. 2-band EQ, pickup pan, volume. So these just came out as Mark was gearing up to do the shows in 1990. So he used this on the same night that I saw them in Cardiff, at Cardiff Uni. And this tone was amazing. He then went on to use these Matrix basses throughout that run of shows at Hammersmith. He never used them again, because by the time Level 42 came back out on tour in 1991, Status had suddenly moved on. They had Empathy basses and there were other products they were pushing. There is a recording. So basically, at the time when they were doing Hammersmith, Capital Radio recorded one of their shows and broadcast it live. You only got half the show because the record company refused to let the new songs from the new album, which was going to be guaranteed, to be aired before the album came out. The album didn't come out for another year. And Polydor weren't happy with the material. So Capital were only able to play half that show. You can go on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description box to that. You can hear that. There's also another version of the same show, which is the entire set. One of these basses is used on it. To me, aside from the Alembics, this is the best tone Mark ever had, especially on a gig. It so cuts through. You hear every note, every pluck, everything he's doing. Even when he's out of tune on Heaven in My Hands, he hadn't tuned up the E string. And it all goes out of tune. But that was his fault, not the bass's fault. But these basses, these Matrix basses, are, for me, one of the best tones Mark King ever had. His King basses never sounded as good as this. Sorry, Mark, if you're watching, it's my opinion. But this bass is just monstrous. The G string will take your head off. So if you've not checked out one of those, there is a demo right here on the channel. So if you go to the soundbite section, there's a demo of that bass. There will be a review video at some point. I just haven't had the time to do it, along with 1,000,001 other things to do here on the channel. But yeah, so check those out, Joe. Right, have a soft spot for English basses. Quite right. Neo Land, hey, hi, welcome. I don't think I've seen you here on the channel before. You're very welcome to the live chat. Hope you're well. Ever played a Shuka? No, I haven't. I've been very aware of John and his wares. When I was writing for Bass Guitar Magazine and Bass Player, stuff would come in and I never managed to get hold of one for the reviews. And I did meet John at a couple of the London bass guitar shows. And he actually made a really great bass that was kind of green and blue. And I'm trying to remember. I remember seeing it at the show and thinking, whoa, we got to get that. And it had already been sold before we could do a review. So no, never played a Shuka, but I hear very good things about them and John. Blame Lewis. Mark King got a great sound with the Status PJ with Gizmodrome. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. The T basses are very different. And certainly don't sound, even the one with the split coil and the single coil does not sound anything like that Matrix. It's all in the circuit, and also how those pickups are wound as well. But like I say, if you didn't see any of the Hammersmith shows or attend any of the university shows, check out those performances on YouTube, the 2 recordings from the Hammersmith gigs, and you'll hear that bass, or not that exact one, but you'll hear a Matrix. Great story about the Matrix bass. Can't wait to have a listen to that concert. I have it burnt on a CD. I have it in my car for constant reference. So it's just a great tone, really great tone. I was quite lucky. I managed to pick that up about 12 years ago, I think. Someone in St Albans, not that far away, was selling it, and I thought I need to buy that. I've been waiting for one of those to turn up. Since I bought it, loads of them have appeared. People always think of them as a cheaper Status, which to some intents and purposes they are. They're black, there's no fancy tops, no LEDs unless you've retrofitted them, but the circuit is monstrous. It's the only bass I've got set up with relatively light strings. I've got 3595s on there. I'm not a great fan of the lighter gauges, but sometimes if you're doing a bit of mark practice or slappy stuff, there's so much more you can do with a lighter set. But I always wanted to have a Status with lighter gauge strings on it, so that one fitted the bill, because I tend to use the other ones for doing more regular sort of covers gigs, so they need to have 4000s on. I think he played it in one of the Forever Now album videos. No, you're thinking of the Empathy, and that was for Love in a Peaceful World. He may also have used it in Forever Now, the single video, but he certainly used the Empathy in the Love in a Peaceful World video. This one's totally black. The one in Love in a Peaceful World is kind of walnut, I think, or Coca-Cola. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. If you wish to turn this into a level 42 Mark King chat, you go right ahead. We can keep that going for hours, no problem. I now have to revert to my drinks bottle because the can of pop is finished. Yes, sir. So I hope you're safe and well out there. Who's got gigs coming up this weekend then? Where are you? I'm out on Friday playing a private event with Uncle Funk's Disco Inferno up in Ware, which is kind of Hertfordshire, Cambridgeshire way. And then Saturday I'm playing with a Queen tribute over in Hereford. Again, kind of a bit of a private booking thing, not a public event. Should be good. Get the precisions out. Might even use my new bass purchase if it transpires. Yeah, did a Queen tribute last Saturday, just gone. So yeah, all good. I'm all Queenified at the moment. It's good. Joe, yes, that's it. Loving a Peaceful World video. Cool. I was going to ask you, what do you have in your flask? That is actually just orange squash at the moment, with fizzy water, of course. We've run out of lemon, so orange it is. Actually, the liquids I drink on these videos can change colour every live chat. Sometimes Innocent do something called Bolt from the Blue, and it's various fruit juices and stuff. It looks green blue. It looks like the weird milk stuff in Star Wars. And someone once said, "Where did you get that? It looks just like the Star Wars stuff." But anyway, I digress. Early wedding gig this weekend. Good for you, Patrick. Early as in early time, early finish, home before match of the day finishes. That's normally the acid test. If you get home before match of the day's finished, you've done well. Blame Lewis. It's amazing how many American bassists haven't heard of Mark. True, and especially amongst the younger brigade, because Level 42 have had no profile in America for decades. I know they did a tour in 2010, but the success of that tour, or lack of it, has kind of meant they're not going to be going back anytime soon because they didn't make very much money on it. Just bad timing for Level 42 where America was concerned, I think. Perhaps if the Gould brothers hadn't left when they did, they might have been able to reinforce what they achieved doing the Steve Winwood and Madonna and Tina Turner shows over there in 86 and 87. But can't turn back time. It was what it was. By the time, well, you saw on Fait Accompli when they did Take a Look, that video was basically filmed to appeal to an American audience. I don't think the single even came out over there. It just didn't work. I think the American version of Polydor would be Polygram, maybe. I don't think they ever really got what the band was about. And the band was changing. You know, it certainly wasn't the band that had existed in 84, 85, maybe 86. It was now becoming sort of a rocky pop band, which was a different thing. Early in the year, as most are summer. Right, got you, Patrick. Joe, I was going to ask you also, you keep firing these questions, my man. I'm quite happy answering them. What is the perfect weight bass for you? And are your alembics on the heavy side? Yes, they are. They've got more weight than Jupiter. So how they hang on those stands, I've no idea. And getting to the low F, you generally have to get a taxi to the end of the fingerboard. They're a long way because even though they're both 34-inch scale, alembic inlay their bridges quite a way into the body, which basically, if you move the bridge that way, the ending point and nut gets further away. So you end up with this rather than that, which is what yeah. If I put it on, you'll see what I mean. But yes, they are heavy. Perfect weight for me. I don't mind a heavy bass. The only problem with the alembics is the bodies are big, then you've got the weight, and then you've got the length, which is why loads of people that have the traditional larger alembic body prefer to have a medium scale, 32-inch. That's why Mark had his 32-inch models made, because when he got his first couple of alembics, they were 34. And as he found, it all moves that way. And they became a bit tricky to play. And certainly you're playing in arenas, not a lot of lighting. Thankfully he had the LEDs, but suddenly the feel of what he'd had with the JDs now compared to the alembics was very different. So he had to get them to make another two, in Cocobolo and Quilted Maple, obviously, that were 32-inch scale, which made them a bit easier to play. But perfect weight bass for me, I don't know. I don't mind light basses. I've never had a problem with that. I like something that feels substantial. So kind of whatever the empathies and the GBs are, that works for me. This GB, the white, is really, it's lighter than my other GBs. Probably based on the timbers Bernie has used. Certainly not meant to be super light. Probably got some swamp ash in there. But this just feels great, plays great, and also, unlike my other GBs that use the GB humbuckers, although these are GB humbucker housings, they've got single coils in. So this bass sounds extremely different to the other ones. A lot of people might go, oh, it can't sound that different. It does. It really does. So it's got a really tight, snappy kind of mid-range. Bottom end is thunderous. Top end is slap-tastic. And then that's before we even get into 18 band of cut and boost and everything that the GBs are. This parallel series switch is kind of redundant because these are single coils, not humbuckers. So this actually now is a volume decrease switch, which is fine if I'm a bit super hot on a gig. Just kick that in, or we can have the DFA switch. So anyone who's a fan of Lee Sklar will know you're on a session or on a gig and sound man goes, that doesn't sound right, or didn't sound how it did before. Can you change it? Just flick the switch. Doesn't do it. Well, mine obviously does a volume decrease, but it doesn't change the tone. And then they go, oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, whatever you did there, it's great. Nothing's changed. So gotta love some Lee Sklar. Oh yes. Okay, Martin Fay, nice to see Nate touring with Mark again. Are we talking Nathan? Nathan has been with Mark since 98. So Nathan's previous band supported Level 42 in 1994 on the final tour. And then when Mark came back with the One Man album and tour, Nathan was on board. I know Nathan quite well. My covers band and his covers band, God, there's so many interactions. So in his covers band, the keyboard player or their band doesn't exist now, neither does mine. But their keyboard player plays in FM with the two guys I was with. The guitarist in Nathan's covers band played on Steve Overland's So album. I think who else was in the band. Yeah, so there were various interactions. But I also used to book their covers band for the gigs that were in London that I used to book. So Nathan and I talk occasionally, either on WhatsApp or if he's got gigs he needs to offload and wants me to dep for him. So it's no problem. Blame Lewis, but then we wouldn't have had the phenomenal Alan Murphy. Correct. Fabulous player. Have you ever tried the Court Jeff Berlin basses? No, I haven't. However, in late 2021, you'll see there's a demo, a soundbite demo here on the channel for the Court B5 Element Artisan bass. Blew my mind. Really great value bass. There will be a review video very soon. I've got a separate video for it. It's not the same video as the demo. I need to do that as a review video because that demo video has done very well. So I need to do a review version of it. But Court generally are very good. An interesting note for all of you Court fans out there. So the Court GBs and the Court series generally have a headstock with a sculpt out of it. So this is a GB guitars bass with a sculpt out of it. If you want to know where Court got that idea from, Court used to be handled by Pro L here in the UK. Pro L's distribution business was housed in the same estate building that GB Guitars were in, literally 2 doors down in the same hallway. They borrowed a GB Roomer, maybe more than one, I don't know. And basically their design ideas since about 2002, 2003, pretty much all come from GB Guitars. That's not slander. That's from me being in the workshop and realizing these basses were going down and coming back a couple of days later. And funnily enough, all the court basses that came out after that period have all got that sculpt in the headstock. Neck dimensions, all sorts of things. Yeah. So if you've ever looked at a court GB or court basses generally and think, oh, that's a really good, interesting headstock design, it wasn't theirs. But there we go. Let's see. Nathan's band Frost are great. Yes, they are. Nathan's a great bass player, great guitarist, but bass player, I mean, yeah, just great. Really good. Funnily enough, my first experience of Nathan was in 1990, a couple of days before I saw Level 42 at Hammersmith on the Saturday. I was in London, I think on the Tuesday. I was up in London buying stuff and whatever. I was buying a wireless, the old Samsung wireless units. So for years in the UK, all we could get was Nady. And then there was an expensive Yamaha one. There was I think it was Trantec. Anyway, Samsung then they were Hartke's distributors. They decided to come out with wireless and what have you. And I went and bought one of these wireless systems. I tested one. Nathan was working in Macari's, which was the old store that Mark had worked in like 20 years earlier, 10 years earlier. But Nathan was working there. I didn't know that was him. And he demoed this wireless system for me. And I went, oh, yeah, okay. I ended up buying one in a different shop because it was like 20 quid cheaper or whatever. Fast forward 4 years, Nathan's band were opening for Level 42. And I stood there, I thought, I know that bloke. And someone in the band introduced him as, oh, and this is Nathan King. Now I knew Mark had a brother called Nathan. And I'm looking at this bloke, and he had short blonde hair, he had a little goatee beard, and I'm thinking, I know him. And it was him. And when I eventually knew him, so when was that? 2000, 2001. I think Shine were on at the Roadhouse before us. And I said, oh, hello, how you doing? And he knew who I was. I knew who he was. And I said, did you ever work in Macari's on Charing Cross Road? He went, yeah. I said, were you there in 1990, sort of in December? He went, yeah. I said, you demoed a Samsung wireless unit for me. And I sat there agog because you were playing all Mark's stuff like you'd written it. He said, well, I've nicked it all off him. So, yeah, so that's me. Very good. Okay, Joe, I was watching the Andertons YouTube videos for a few years before I realised that Nathan was Mark King's brother. There you go. There you go. That's funny, actually, how that all came to pass, because back in, when was that? 2015. So when I used to write for Bass Guitar Magazine, we would do review days at various bass shops here in the UK. So the way it always used to work from the point that I first joined the mag was you'd get sent stuff from the magazine offices. It would come to your house, you do the review, ring up the office, they'd organise a courier, come and pick it up and take it away again. Then I said to the old editors, 'cause we went through editors quite quickly, why don't you get loads of gear in down at the mag, and rather than keep paying courier fees to drop stuff off and then pick it up, why don't I just come down, do loads of it in one day, so arrive at 10 o'clock, stay till 6, get as many done as I can. Anything that's left over, I'll bring back with me to London, so you've saved another courier fee. And then anything that I've got at home when we're finished, collect, but the bulk of it I'll have done. So we used to do that. Then we started doing it where I'd go out to the stores and do it. I think that was kind of from the point that we went with Blaze Publishing, because obviously Oyster House had gone. So we would do review days. So I would contact Bass Gear, Bass Direct, PMT, the Gallery, Guitar, and I'd go into their stores or shops and I would do the reviews for 6-7 hours. We do photography, job's all done, all in one hit. And there was always talk of doing something with Andertons, and I approached the bosses of Andertons when I went to a Nathan East clinic in Guildford in 2015, and they were like, yeah, we could really do that. Yeah. And it all went quiet. We set the ball rolling and they never came back to us with like fixed dates for doing reviews and stuff. And then next thing you know, clearly it's been very successful. They were doing their own review videos and stuff on YouTube. Although, to be honest, they're more feature videos. They're not necessarily reviews of individual products. Certainly with basses, it's normally, or it was, Nathan and Lee or whoever. And they would do their chats, but they weren't really sort of technical reviews as such. So yeah, it could have been very different. We could have ended up having loads of their stuff in the mag, and who knows? It might have been me on those Andertons videos, not Nathan. But there we go. Time's passed by now. We have no magazine, so they do their videos and I do mine. Huge ass. Yeah, man. Hey, Brooksy, what do you call a beautiful woman on a bassist arm? Go on, surprise me. Lucky? Fortunate, maybe. A tattoo. He's here all week, folks. Matinee in the afternoon. Evening performance from 7. Chicken and chips in a basket. Well done. Very good. I'm not paying you copyright for that, but very good. Well done, sir. So here we are, live chat number 37 here on Brooks's Bass Corner on Tuesday evening, live from London town in the UK. Hope you're all safe and well out there, wherever you are in the world. We're talking bass guitars, bass amplifiers, bass effects, bass accessories, great bass players in great bands, great albums with great bass lines. You want to talk bass? We'll talk bass. Joe, I loved your interview with Billy Sheehan. Which one? There's a few, and there's still a couple still to go up. Which one do you... Best thing to do is tell me which year. I was there. I was there, so I know in my mind's eye what happened on each one. So you tell me. I loved your interview. Right, great guy, great interview. Cool. Do you have an Attitude bass and do you gig it? Yes, I do. I've got a black one there with a Perloid plate, limited to. If you go to the bass collection video, you'll see it in there. It's round about, I can even tell you. Hold on, I'll tell you which number it is. You can find it really easily. It is number 16. Yamaha Attitude LTD2. There's my... Sorry, I keep talking to the screen. I need to talk to you guys. There's my cue sheet for that video. That took some work, I tell you. 55 hours of editing to get that video together. I gigged it a few times when I first bought it. Again, it was a bass that didn't necessarily suit the band I was using it in. So I used it on a couple of rocky pub gigs. And it sounded great, but it was a nightmare when it came to playing things like Call Me Al. Just couldn't slap on it. Didn't have that tone. Just didn't work. And some of the more modern dancier tunes we were doing, it just didn't kind of translate. So I love the tones on it. I love running it in stereo when I can have 2 rigs. Haven't used it in a long, long time, but it's one of those basses I coveted getting one of those for ages. Nothing really sounds like it. And I certainly don't need to sell it, and I don't want to sell it. And I love playing it. It is great. It's so different to everything else I've got. But if you need a tight bridge sound or something a bit funky, probably not the bass for that, but it's not designed to be. So yes, I do have one, and it's sat right there, even resplendent with the Bones sticker on it as well. Hugh sounds like a drummer. Never. I don't know who it is. Who are you, huge ass? Stacy, yeah, huge ass, yeah. Lewis, that TC Electronic Flashback 2x4 is like time warping with a bass guitar. It's a creativity monster. Yeah, well, there you go. Actually, I've been looking at pedals today. What's got my eye? The MXR Poly Blue Octave. Seen loads of good comments about it on Bass Chat here in the UK. And bearing in mind, I've just bought the Source Audio Spectrum Intelligent filter and the C4 synth pedal, I may now have to also buy this MXR pedal to do in some sort of comparison video. We'll see. Poly Blue is a good pedal. It sounds like it's got multiple effects without necessarily having been designed that way. But I've read loads of people's... sorry, I've got an itchy nose this evening, sorry. I've read loads of comments about it on Bass Chat today, this morning. I've seen that pedal in shops and stores online for months, probably a year or so. But I hadn't checked out any demo videos of it, but it sounds great. So I think I'm going to have to check it out. I'll probably just buy one, start doing some videos, see how we go. I'm dying to see that Source Audio video. Yes, they're coming. I'm scripting them out. Yeah, both of those pedals are great. I mean, Bass the World have already done videos on them, and that kind of inspired me to think I need to get them. But also I want to use them. I want to use them for Uncle Funk. So the filter pedal is quite, you can tailor so much of it with the software. So yeah, all of this stuff. Again, another time sapping thing. I've got to sit and get my pedal board redesigned with what I want on it. I've kind of had the same layout for a while, and I keep meaning to do it, and it's just a time consuming job, but I've got to do it. Need to change the chorus pedal over. Got to take the phasers off it now. I might take the knockout attack equalizer off. Then I've got new pedals that need to go on, like the BBE, Sonic Stomp. I may even take the tone hammer off and give that Battalion preamp pedal a bit of a go. See how that comes up. Martin, if you could only have one pedal apart from a tuner, what would it be? Octave pedal. Every day of the week. Because it just... invariably in most songs there are little passages, certainly in disco stuff, funky stuff, where you might need to play a line high up, but it becomes thin as you get higher up the neck. Strings are thinner, but an octave pedal just gives you that distinction, so you're not losing the bottom end, and it really gives it a nice... I've never played a bad octave pedal. You just get ones that are a bit temperamental, so you kind of got to pick your bass, and whether it's passive or active, and what the pickups are doing, what the strings are doing. And when you find a good octave pedal, it really adds something. For years in my old covers band, that was the only pedal I used aside from the tuner. And a lot of the time I had a rack mount tuner anyway, so the only pedal I used was an old grey, I think it's in that tub, my old grey EBS Octabass, the grey one. It worked great. Started to get a bit of a tracking problem on it. And at some point, if ever I get to go to EBS in Sweden, or I could deal with the distributors here, I might get them to have a look at it and just check it's okay. But for me, yeah, that. Although in Uncle Funk, it would be a toss-up between octave pedal and an envelope filter. But I have to say, and I've said this a lot on live chats and various videos here on the channel, I think the Digitech drop pedal is such a godsend. I wish I'd had that pedal 25 years ago. It would have saved me a whole load of grief on gigs, deck gigs, using different basses on gigs. Would have, because for years my old covers band, we played semitone down tuning. Some basses just didn't work, and going between semi-tone down, full tone down, back to concert, I could do all three within 3 gigs with different bands, and some of the necks just were not happy. But yeah, so I'd say an octave pedal, maybe an envelope filter, Digitech drop pedal as a Swiss Army knife of solving a load of tuning issues. Blame Lewis, what amps do you use? Mark bass player myself, very good. That's good. Currently, I'm an Aguilar endorsee artist. Before that, I was using EBS. I've still got all my EBS stuff here. I have amps by other manufacturers. I have cabs by other manufacturers. But my preference is for Aguilar stuff. So I use an AG 700 for clean bass tone. And now I have a DB 751 for those gigs that need a bit more welly and a bit more grunt. And when there's room to have a couple of cabs, DB 751, it's bass nirvana for me. I could sit there and just play, and the tone is just magical. So yeah, that's for me. That's my bag. But the EBS stuff I've still got, just very different sounding to the Aguilar. So I've kind of got 2 totally different sounding systems. Then I've got a Messer Boogie or Messer Engineering Strategy 888, which is like full to the gunnels of tubes. Then I've got various Class D amps. I've got an old Gensben Shuttle 9.2 there. Gallien Kruger MB200, got Trace Elliott Elf. There's a Hartkey 200 watt combo here. Then there's a preamp in the PV bass specs. I've got a whole bunch of preamp pedals as well, so I've got a real assortment of different gear for different jobs. Joe, have you ever owned a WoW bass? No, and I've never played one that made me want to own one. I nearly bought one for was it 850 or 900? I turned down a Mark. It's either a Mark II or a Mark III 5-string that I was planning on defretting, and the shop wouldn't give me a £50 discount, so I turned my back on it. This was in 2001. At that point, Tool hadn't really taken off, and WoWs hadn't gone through the ceiling. Had we known then what we know now, I would have bought up every WoW, JD, Alembic and Status I could have found. But there we go. Didn't know that then. Back then you could buy WoWs for 600 quid. Easily. People were giving them away, just couldn't sell them. And would you put your name on the waiting list to get one in the future, considering the price? Absolutely not. I've never played one that made... Okay, I had the opportunity on the day I bought Mark King's Stingray to buy the WoW MIDI bass, the MB1, that he used on Lasso the Moon with a Little Love, and he used it a lot on the Prince's Trust 89 gig. I played that bass in the store. They wanted £3,000 for it, 3.5. So this was in 1997. It was horrible. It played horribly. It didn't sound that great. It came with the WoW with the MIDI converter and stuff. I didn't even bother plugging that bit of it in. I just thought, I don't even like playing the neck. Just didn't feel good at all. Passed it by. I don't know if Morgan's got that one. I suspect someone else, but I've never seen it mentioned since it went for sale. So no, I wouldn't put my name on the waiting list for a while, because I've never played one that made me. But then there's lots of basses I've played that I thought, ugh, don't like that, but played another model by the same company. Alembic. I've played loads of Alembics I didn't like. Thankfully, the 2 I've got I absolutely adore. So you get lucky. Okay, Blame Lewis, love my EBS octave pedal. I hear. From your gear and knowledge, Brooksy, I'd say you'd be a Jonas Hellborg fan. Got stories for you there. I liked some of his stuff. An old friend of mine from university had loads of his solo albums and some of his fusion stuff. And I kept seeing his name pop up when I first started playing bass, and I always wanted to sort of track down his stuff. He was one of the first interviews I did for Bass Guitar magazine at the London Bass Guitar Show in 2013. And I need to be careful what I say here. He was extremely rude, extremely pompous, personally, I thought he was full of crap. He took things way beyond a level. I don't know. I think he might be slightly touched, in the nicest possible sense, but he was bloody rude and very obnoxious. And if I never had to interview him again, there's no hardship. I did have to put him in his place. He was having a go at me for something the mag had done. Oh God, a couple of years earlier, someone had interviewed him and made a real pig's ear of it, and he didn't like what was published, but he assumed it was me. And I said, well, that's funny because I've never met you or spoken to you before in my life. So you can stand there ranting and raving and shouting and screaming all you like, but if you want to carry on, I'll just walk out the door and you can just stay in here on your own. Or we can sit down, behave like adults and do an interview. And by that point, he sort of did calm down and said sorry. And but yeah, not something I ever want to do a second time. So yeah, not really for me. Sorry about that. Okay, Martin Fate. I play an Ashdown Head, cool, and Galen Kruger cab, very good. But love the EBS kit, such a distinctive sound. It is, and if I actually A/B between EBS and Aguilar, it's very different. It's two, I wouldn't say polar opposites, but very different tones that they're trying to go after. So when I first auditioned Aguilar gear, I had my EBS stuff, and I took my EBS rig on a gig with the review gear that I had for Aguilar. So this was 2007, so it was a DB750 then. I thought the DB750 blew the Fafner out of the water, but the EBS Proline 4x10 cab was better than the GS410 Aguilar. So at that time in my head, I was thinking, right, well, the Aguilar with the EBS cab, that's like the ideal. And that, do you know what? Since I bought Aguilar stuff in 2018, I've never done that matchup. I should be interesting. Lewis, signal talking. I'm running to a Bogner, to a Peavey, to a Dark Glass, to the Wampler 5-band parametric EQ. Got the high gain monster. Stacking distortion is fun. Lewis, do you live in a detached house or are you on a terrace with neighbours? Because I worry that there might not be many people in your neighbourhood when you're having your playing sessions. Has earthquake measurements, have they got a Richter reader outside your house? I need to know these things. You live in an apartment. Okay. Play nicely with your neighbours. Play nicely with your neighbours. Patrick Sweeney, I know I've mentioned them before, but I finally got a barefaced bass cab. Very good, a BT3. 212 with a tweeter. 1600 watts. Patrick, where the hell do you need 1600 watts? But there we go. Sweet. It's a bit of a monster. Yeah. 1600 watts. You're not going to be using that down the dog and duck, are you, on the Sunday afternoon? There we go. Huge ass. Have you ever tried any of the Ritter basses? Yes, I have. I reviewed one back in 2013. So we used to have a shop here in Twyford, near Reading, here in the UK, called Bass Gear, run by the lovely Phil Nixon and Barry Cree. Yeah. Sorry, the brain's going. I have so many things to remember. Phil and Barry ran a great shop. They were kind of, well, Phil was, well, both of them bought Ritter basses. I think Bass Gear may have become a UK distributor for Ritter, but certainly if you wanted to place an order, I think Jens Ritter would, if you were in the UK, he would suggest you go to Bass Gear because they had experience with the basses, so they knew what they were talking about. Phil had a wine red. In fact, just give me 2 seconds. I'll open up my file manager. I'll tell you exactly what I reviewed. There we go. Bass reviews published. Ritter. So in spring 2013. 2013? Yeah, it was 2013. It was an R8 single cut 5-string. Just click on that. Yeah, that's the one. Red one. Yep. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It had 13 screws holding the neck joint together. Let's see if I can look at that. How much was it? It was not cheap. It was £6,450. And then in 2014, this belonged to, so the red one belonged to Phil. And in 2014, Barry's Ritter Cora Late Lounge 4, which was flame maple in an amber, it's not amber burst, but amber colour. That was, that wasn't cheap either. £6,448 to you, sir. But both extremely lovely instruments. Love them. Really love them. But again, I love that bass he's done with the multicolored fingerboard. I love that. I think that's great. But I just wouldn't spend that amount of money on a bass. I really wouldn't. But I do love the idea of that multicolored fingerboard, I have to say. Lewis, good artist, stays humble. Exactly. One of the first things I learned from college art class is share and learn. Good man. Joe, apart from Lee Sklar, who was your favourite bassist to interview? Oh, now. Now there's a thing. Nathan East is very high up there because he's lovely. Really easy to talk to. Down to earth. No airs and graces. Last time I saw Nathan, it's like two old friends having a chat. And we talk fairly regularly, a couple of times a month on WhatsApp. He'll message me out of the blue just for a chat. And I've done the same with him. It's nice. We have a two-way conversation. I do the same thing with Mark King, just less regularly. Mark gets bombarded with stuff. So unless there's something I need to know or ask, or I'm offering support if he's doing a new project or something, or touring. But yeah, that's all good. I'm trying to think who. Tell you what, if I go on my list and I can see everyone I interviewed, names will become apparent. Let's have a little look. Interviews. Well, I went to New York to interview the guys from Aguilar and Stuart Spector. That was a very lovely trip. I really enjoyed that. Interviewing my friend Barry Morehouse, the owner of the Bass Centre. We did that in 2016. That was good fun. Then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Billy Sheehan interviews. They're all pretty good. Chris Childs from Thunder, always a blast. Chris Squire and Jack Bruce weren't hard. They were just, you need to break them down a bit. But not my favourite. Goodness. John Taylor was a blast, but I did get the impression he was kind of answering from a script. So, and I've read and heard other interviews that were done on the same day or the day after, because the bass interviews were done 2 days together, and kind of gave everyone the same answer. So I'm really glad that at points in my interview, I asked him stuff that was totally off the beaten track that he wasn't expecting. So that was good. Let's have a look. Larry Graham was exceptional. That was meant to be 30 minutes, no more. It turned into 3 hours. So that's cool. Lee Sklar. Marcus Miller is always a gent. We met for the first time in 2006 at the Bass Centre. We didn't meet again till 2014. And he remembered my face. He knew my name. And he said, "You're the guy that writes for Bass Guitar Magazine." Yeah. Good. I then met him again in 2017. We had man hugs, so that was all good. Saw Marcus last year. It's the first time since COVID. And we had a great chat for about 40 minutes in the backstage at Ronnie Scott's, in his changing room, eating food, drinking beer. Great night. So Marcus is always great. Mark King's always good. Yeah, we know where we are with each other these days. That's all good. Mike Dirnt was great from Green Day. That was just before COVID, a couple of months before COVID. I think we chatted for 90 minutes. It was meant to be, 30 minutes, and we ended up talking for about 90, so that was good. Neil Fairclough, that was an interview that's turned into a friendship, so that's fabulous. Let's have a look. Sheldon Dingwall, always a pleasure. Yeah, that's probably, I mean, I'm running down the list here. There's like about 80 interviews I've done. So, but that's just picking out the salient names that I can see and read. Here we go. Apartment. Okay, Lewis Wingrove. After 1 p.m, the night workers set up the time so fat. No complaints, thank God. Cool. Stacey, you've retracted 2 messages. Lewis, can you believe the more powerful and clean system generated less complaining? Haha, excellent. Those crappy garage stereo will piss off the neighbours in California. I'm confused. Start by Stacey Ann. Well, I really confused that one. Patrick's got the 1600 watts. Sorry. So yeah, 800 watt Ampeg here. Yeah, cool. Lewis, I had the windows flexing in a rental house. No problem. A junkyard stereo and band. Less than 20 minutes. My neighbour said, please, this apartment is killer good, folks. Patrick Sweeney, I know I don't need 1600 watts. The new speaker design gives better dispersion of the bass frequencies. Always a good point. There's a lot of clever techie stuff they've done. Good. Alex explains it in his YouTube videos. Excellent. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Good. Okay, we've been going 3 hours and 11 minutes. Woo, it's a long one today. I'll give it another 5-10 minutes. If you guys aren't talking or you want to slow things down, then that's cool. I'll start winding it in. I'll give you the 10-minute call. If this suddenly turns into a more conversation, then we'll keep going. If not, I'll wind it up in 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll do the usual YouTube channel shout out. So this is Brooks's Bass Corner, live chat number 37. I'm Mike Brooks. Tuesday evening, London town, UK. We're talking bass guitars, bass amps, bass speakers, bass effects, bass accessories, great bass players, bass playing. If you've got any gear that's causing you problems, or you need advice, or you're thinking of buying some new equipment, or you just want to know how something sounds, or you're setting up a pedal board, maybe not sure how to order the pedals, how to link it all up, ask us. If I don't know, chances are someone else on here might. We've done lots of Mark King chat tonight, lots of level 42 stuff. We're talking lots of gear, lots of equipment. It's all good. You got any bass related questions and you just don't know the answers, or you can't find what you're looking for through Google, put it in the live chat window, which is below this video on the mobile app. It's that way on the desktop app. Put your message in there. As soon as I see it pop up, I'll respond to it. I saw some messages come in there. Lewis, I had the windows flexing. I think you just posted. Oh no, I see what happened. It's gone back up. Stacey, 3 hours and 20 minutes is the record. Yeah, we could beat that. Blame Lewis, have you tried the EBS Billy Sheehan pedals? Yes, sir. I bought one of the first ones that came into the UK in 2013, the purple one. I had it for review from, what was then EBS's distributor here in the UK, which was Sound Technology. I bought it. So I reviewed it and I bought it. I didn't get the orange one, the second iteration, but I've got the third one, the blue. That's in that pedal box. I used the purple one more than anything. Really good pedal, simple to use, great sounds. Simplicity works for me. So I don't need all the switching options and what have you. It's overkill for me. I just like distorted tones out of it. I think it's great. That's where I got my username. You can't blame Lewis. I had gathered. One of my favourite bass lines from that album, and actually from the whole Level 42 back catalogue. That there you go. Yeah. So so what's coming up on the channel? So we've got I will get the merchandise finished tomorrow. That's my priority. New content, long form content will be bass string experiment, gig number 14. I'm actually doing gig number 31 on Friday, but I explained that earlier in the live chat. Gig number 14 will be the last one that's an independent gig. Then the next couple of videos will be consolidation. So gig 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19 will be in one video. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 will be in a video. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 will be in a video. So I don't have to keep repeating the same thing I've said on the video before. And I don't want to take your time up watching me say the same thing over and over again. Joe, are you a precision bass fan at all? I can be. I sometimes am. They're not my favourite basses, but they have their place. I've got one. It's hard to include a Fender Precision Light as a precision because it's not really a precision. What have I got? So there's a Fender P Light. I've got a Mike Dirnt Mexican, not Mike Dirnt Precision. So that's a 2004, 2005 one. I've then got a 2018 Mexican Precision, which I use for Queen tributes. I changed the hardware over, so it's all gold. It's got an Aguilar pickup, Wilkinson bridge. And then I've also got a FSR 70s Precision, which was made in Mexico. Came out in 2017. It's an FSR, Fender Special Release. It's outstanding. I can get it out of the bag, actually. I was using it the other night. There we go. There we have it. So this is usually my backup on the Queen gigs, but it's got a much different tone to the black one. Quite a chunkier neck. It's got black binding. Ash body. The pickup is amazing. When I first got this, I was just playing along to Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars, and this has got that tone. It's a really chunky, snappy, gnarly precision, and it just plays great. Heavy, but it's okay, not too bad. It's an FSR. So trying to do this without banging everything about, but yeah, so it's got the old style decal from the 70s. Just great, really substantial bass. I can't believe it's Mexican though, because it sounds amazing and it plays fabulous. Actually, not too unlike an Attitude neck. Maybe not quite as full on as that, but it's got similar tones. It's great, love it. Very different to the other ones. Lewis, the level of stiffness of the Spider and the surrounding rubber controls the tightness. More power is required for control of speakers. Car audio specialist. Yes, sir. That's okay. Mexican Fender is like 15 miles from the California factory. Fender uses both facilities for American basses. Food for thought. Absolutely. My Mike Dirnt basses, I've no complaints over that. Absolutely superb. Never had a problem. Well, as I say, I never had a problem. I had one problem the day I got it. It arrived on my doorstep, got it out the box, and the jack socket, the connector inside, just wasn't gripping the audio jack, the 1/4-inch jack. So I had to undo it, get in there, and just squeeze the ends together a bit more with pliers, and that solved it. There we go. Blaine Lewis, used to love Bruce Foxton's precision sound. Not all precisions sound the same. They might look the same, simple design, one pickup. They don't all sound the same. That's for sure. Take every single bass you ever play on its merits. Do not assume that you know how it's going to sound. You don't. That's why every bass I've ever reviewed for magazine, website or anything, you have to review it. Don't assume that you know how it's going to sound, because you don't. Even if you, like when I've done review days in shops and we've had the opportunity to have 4 or 5 of the same model there, although that rarely happens, but when it did, invariably, you'd pull one out of that group, play it, assess it, pull another one out. They didn't sound the same. Certainly not. Joe, do you ever have to use an overdrive pedal like a Boss ODB3 or Sonzad bass drum? Yeah, I don't have to, but I do on my pedal board use the Billy Sheehan EBS pedal for most distortion. I have a fuzz pedal, which I use more than distortion. I use that quite a bit with Uncle Funk. My point of reference for funk fuzz tones are A, Larry Graham, but B, Rhonda Smith with Prince. So there's an album that Prince did called One Night Alone. Rhonda's the bass player on it. There's a couple of songs on there where she uses bass fuzz. I emailed her, God, that must have been like 2007, maybe 2008. Said to her, I know your inspiration is Larry Graham, and I know obviously you play with Prince and what have you. What's the pedal you're using for that? She said, it's exactly what Larry uses. I said, what, an old 60s space fuzz? Whatever it was. And she said, no. He doesn't take that out on gigs anymore. He uses a Dan Electro Fab Tone. I said, that's a guitar pedal. She said, it's amazing. It's exactly Larry's fuzz sound. It's what he uses now. She said, I just followed what he was using. So I use one of those. I got one on eBay for about 30 quid. And it's monstrous. It will destroy the walls in your house. I mean, it's off the scale. You've got to adjust it, really small little adjustments, but you get his fuzz tone. So sometimes I use that, sometimes it's an MXR bass fuzz deluxe, but distortions, I do use them, but just not that often, because a lot of the effects I use are for effect rather than creating textures or what have you, which is what guitarists, you know, a lot of guitarists will turn an effect on it, it stays on the whole song. But if I'm using overdrive, generally it's a Billy Sheehan. I've got a Sonzamp. I don't like the tone especially, but to be honest, I haven't used it with a lot of the other basses I've got in my collection. So when I used that, it would have been either with my Kubicki or a Stingray. It might just be that those basses didn't work great with that Sonzamp at that time. I'm trying to think, what other distortions have I got? There's a couple, but I generally don't use a lot of that. If I need distortion, I might use something that's got a valve in it. So either bring an amp with valves or what's the other option? Or it might be just playing with a pick and get some rotor sound swing bass on, get that grindy, clunky thing, play it through a valve amp. That normally does it. I'll be honest, that normally covers most distortion I need. Let's have a look. But Boss ODB3, no, not my thing. Blameless, great stream, Brooksy, and thanks for sharing your time. A pleasure. And that's what we're here for. I can't do it on my own. If you guys don't do the questions and the comments, we end up with like an hour of me chatting and we cut it short. But this is great. When you guys are all chatting, this is what we do it for. I learn stuff. I get an idea of things you guys want to see, which makes my job a bit easier doing the videos. Lewis, my buddy Eric has an American Strat 83 and 91 Mexican. The Mexican is 80% the American. It's just missing the unicorn rainbow. Sounds probably won't be noticeable in a band setting. It's true. All I ever got was compliments using the Mike Dirnt Precision. Everyone ever heard it? That pickup on that, I think it's a 59. Or it's wound like a 59. It's like an ice pick in the head. It's like really substantial, really grindy. It sounds great. Joe, a friend at work gave me a Fab Tone as he had a spare one. The only thing is it's a bit heavy for me to carry in my gig bag on the tube. They are weighty, but again, if you need that tone, that's the one for it. If you want Larry Graham, Rhonda Smith fuzz, I have to say that the MXR Bass Fuzz Deluxe is good. It's a different fuzz. It's not the same. Martin Fay, I've got a drop. Thanks, mate. See you next time. Martin, thank you. And thank you so much for the super chat donation. Very much appreciated. See you next time. Keep, if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button if you can. Keep an eye on the community tab. That's where I'll post up when next live chat's going to be. But thank you. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your questions. Much appreciated. Also, do you always take... Oh, here we go. There's more. Do you always take more than one bass to a gig? Always. Always take two basses, unless I know the strings on the bass I'm taking are relatively fresh, like within 2 or 3 gigs, and I'm confident that bass ain't going to snap. But even so, a story I've recounted a million times, and I'll say it again. I did a gig at Oxford O'Neill's in 2006. I had 2 active basses. I had my T bass and I had my GB. Yeah, GB Rumor. Right. So I'm playing. We're in the second set. We're probably coming to the last 3 or 4 songs before the end. String snaps on my GB. All right, it's all right. Let's get to the end of this song. Pick T bass up. Put T bass on. Start playing. Halfway through the song, battery dies on that bass. So now I'm left with a bass with no battery that's working, but all the strings, or a bass with 3 strings and the A string's not on. So I literally said, guys, just stop the song. Let me just change the battery in this bass. It's going to take 10 seconds. Then we'll pick up and we'll start again. That's what we did. So even with 2 basses, you can't always count on that being enough. But generally, I will always take 2 basses. I used to take 2 in a double gig bag. I'm 50 now. I hate the weight of 2 basses in one bag. So either I take 2 gig bags or I take 1 in a case, lightweight case, 1 in a gig bag. Depends whether I'm driving or whether I'm tubing. Some London gigs now, it's easier just to tube in. So play it by ear, really. But yeah, the other thing I have started doing, if I'm tubing in, is I'll take a bass in a gig bag, and then I'll take my Status Streamline, which is like half the size of all the other gig bags, and it's really light. That's the easier one to carry. Put the regular bass over the shoulder. But yes, I will generally always take 2 basses to a gig. Lewis, I'm going to steal those Mexican pickups for the Craving guitar he has. We're going to modify the Mexican. Damn, I love that. Made Mexican, most of the unicorn. There you go. There you go. Liptech 1. Can you share how you would compare one of your alembics to a Spectre Euro 4 LX? Well, for a start, totally different basses in every shape, manner, or form. The alembics are very bespoke pickups and electronics, whereas the Spectre is using a split coil, a single coil, and an EMG circuit. Completely opposite tone generation and tone processing going on there. Both through necks, obviously. The Spectre naturally would be slightly brighter because there's a lot of maple in there. It's a through neck, but Euro 4 LX, based on current models, and the one I've got has got, it's the sandwich. It's got alder, maple, and then there's a veneer, I think, of walnut in there. Then you've got the sculpted body and the relatively small amount of wood on a Spectre Euro LX compared with half a tree on an alembic. So you've got a lot less body material, less headstock material. Resonance is going to be very different. They're very different bass. That would be almost like comparing an alembic with a Fender. Not that a Spectre is anything like a Fender, but we're coming at 2 different styles of bass design and sound and tone generation. Now Naturally, there are the rock connotations of Spectres, but I've seen plenty of jazzers and funk players use Spectres. And a lot of rock players used to use alembics, but then lots of disco players did, lots of jazz players, lots of fusion players, because at that time, when alembic sort of came up and through and became very popular, they were one of the first active basses out there. So, you know, people wanted those sounds. Yeah. So how would I compare them? Crikey. I mean, you can do a car analogy, but I don't want to do that because it would just dumb down the Spectre, and they're not dumbed down basses. I mean, Spectres are great basses. Alembics are just a different type of bass, different type of sound. Really? Maybe that's a video. I would get torn to shreds by the Spectre fan base, but here we go. Have you interviewed or hung out with Guy Pratt as you reviewed his signature bass? Yes, I did. I interviewed Guy at London Bass Show in 2013. I got to play Betsy while he was having his photos done. And then we spoke again on the phone in about 2017, because he was going to be at Bass Show in 2018. So we had a phone chat and a pre-show interview. And then I saw him at the show, and we had a natter and a chat and a catch-up. But yeah, he was at the show when I did the review of the Betsy bass, which is the one I own. But we don't generally sort of chat or converse. How can I be polite about this? I love everything he does and play. Just kind of, he's not my sort of person, really. That's nothing derogatory or anything. Just, I've seen Guy when he gets really het up and angry about things, and yeah, it wasn't for me. He was getting angry and het up about things he had no reason to get angry and het up about. So unless he was drunk or on some sort of chemical, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Lovely, you know, when I've interviewed him, he's been fine and stuff, but I don't know. I kind of always got the impression he's got somewhere else to go, and you're just kind of in the way of him getting to that. But that's fair enough. He's doing the podcast with Gary. Yeah, Rock on Tours. Yeah, they've done some real crackers, actually. I listened to quite a few of them during lockdown. He seems a bit highly strung. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm alluding to. But can't argue with the career. Can't argue with what he's achieved. He's done very well. Yeah, and highly sought after, of course. But the Betsy is a great bass, and I'll shout it from the rooftops. It's for the price, outstanding value, I would say. And Lord knows I've used mine on many a gig. I'm not sure where this bass is going, so it's going to drill a hole in my thigh. Yeah, but Betsy is fabulous. Okay, it's coming up to 11:30. Yeah, I never realised that was him in the Earth Song. Mate, if you go through Guy's discography, there's lots of songs you wouldn't know he was on. He wrote Go to Zero for Power Station. It's his song. He presented it to Robert Palmer. Robert Palmer said, "Oh, I've got a perfect project to put that in." And so he got a song on the Power Station album, first Power Station album. But he did rather well out of that. Or not, as the case may be. But, you know, you write a song and all the Duran Duran fans are going to buy that album. I'm sure at the time he wasn't complaining. So here we are, it's 11:30. I think I'm probably going to start wrapping this up, guys. So thank you very much for a fabulous live chat. Very entertaining. Thank you for all the questions, all the comments. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Let's do this again soon. They're not all like this, but if they were, great. We'll do this every day, shall we? But thank you anyway. Thank you everyone for attending. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyable. Patrick's off to bed. Great chat. Might look forward to it next time. Nice one. You take care, Patrick. So I will see you shortly. I will put up when the next live chat is going to be. It might be next Tuesday or it might not. We'll see. Tuesdays at 8 o'clock seem to work. So we've had consistently good results with this time slot. So I'll try and stick to it as much as I possibly can. So long form content going up hopefully tomorrow. First priority is get the merchandise up and running, so you'll be able to buy Base Corner clothing and accessories. Aren't you lucky? And load of YouTube shorts as well. The daft thing is I've got all this stuff literally ready to go. It's just having the time to promote it properly. As I've said before, there's no point putting videos up that you can't promote. Otherwise, they just fly out the cannon and hit the ground. That's not really what we want to do. We want them to go boom, like that. So loads of stuff coming up. Another live chat as soon as I can put it in. And I think that's pretty much it. Stacey, good evening. Take care. Kev. A revisit of the basis for the band job is worth a revisit. The basis for the band. Great chat. Thank you. You went under the radar there. You should have spoken up. But thank you. Glad you enjoyed it. So on that note, I'm going to wind things down. I will say, have a good week. Enjoy your Tuesday, what's left of it. I will see you very soon. If you've got any questions or comments about anything on the channel, feel free to message me either via the community tab or via the social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Leave comments on any videos you wish. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. If you don't subscribe to the channel, you don't have to, but feel free. If you want to financially help the channel at all, any of the videos here on the channel have the love heart with a dollar symbol. It's called Super Thanks. Allows you to donate financially to the channel. Then we've also got the affiliate links in the description box, and there will be merchandise, I really hope, tomorrow. Just got to finish doing the detail on the shop front, and then it'll be up there. So on that note, I will see you very soon, possibly next Tuesday, if that works for everyone. And new content going up. Enjoy your week. Enjoy Tuesday. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy. All the best.